bad guy character in professional wrestling.
When's the last time you got laid?
French toast is the exchange student that you have like a 3-week affair with.
Like, we can see that you don't have pants on.
Can we tell the truth about Dusty sooner or later?
Bro, less people wanted that than are currently watching our stream.
And you know Vince, and you still think, are these true? It's like...
Welcome to the Mark It Down podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Mark It Down podcast. My name is Nick Cummings, making my return after, I think, 3 weeks now. So I'm back, joined tonight by James Asante, producer boy Eric Asante in the background. Back here once again to review AEW Dynamite, this being the 5th anniversary of AEW Dynamite and coming off a great Grand Slam, which we were both at, and we very much enjoyed. So we will probably comment throughout the show on that, as we haven't really discussed it here on the pod. And I have a lot of thoughts on everything that's happened the last few weeks, but I've been all around the world. So in the meantime, let's stick to what has happened here tonight. And we started off the show with a backstage promo from what I guess we're still calling the Blackpool Combat Club. I don't really know. Blackpool Combat Club. We haven't really, as far as I know, James, established any new name for them, as we say hello and happy birthday to our friend here at the podcast, Dev. Dev, happy birthday, my man. It is good to have you back here once again on the Mark It Down podcast. I don't know. There's James. James, do we have a new name for this group, or are we just still going with the Blackpool Combat Club?
I've been calling them the Not Blackpool Combat Club. I don't know if you can hear me.
I can hear you. I'm not sure if I'm on delay or you, but we will figure that out.
It's me.
Okay, as James figures out his technical difficulties, I will continue here with what's going on and explain to all of you that we had Pac and Claudio beginning the show by addressing Wheeler Yuta, telling him that he is a lion, as James returns to us, that he's already made his choice, or at least he should have, and that they have big plans for him. Marina then said something in what I believe was Russian. I have no idea. I'm not entirely sure where she's from, but I imagine it is her native tongue, or at least her family's native tongue. And then Moxley comes up to the camera to address Bryan Danielson. Mox said that he has prayed that Bryan wouldn't win the title, but now that he has, Mox is indeed coming for him. Mox is going to bury Bryan in his own backyard in Washington at Wrestle Dream, finally sending Daddy home as Mox relieves him of duty. So some opening threats here, James, but this didn't really come back around until the end of the show. But I am enjoying this dynamic with this new Not Blackpool Combat Club, and seeing them do a lot more backstage stuff. It feels right. I think Claudio and Pac are doing a good job playing off each other and finding their voices within this group. And to my knowledge, this is the first time Marina spoke, and it wasn't even in English. But a good opening salvo, I thought, for the show here.
Absolutely. We are firmly in this era where Bryan and Mox are the central feud of AEW right now. There is nothing bigger. There is no grander feud. We're I guess currently past Swerve and Hangman, and Bryan and Mox for this war for the heart and soul of AEW with the Blackpool Combat Club entangled has been captivating. And to bookend the show this way, to start the show, and then spoilers to end the show this way, I think makes a lot of sense. It really conveys that importance. And I guess my only critique is that I feel like we've been dealing with this this ambiguity for a while. Like we still don't know what's going on. We still don't know why Mox really did. Like one of the commentators said it beautifully. He's been speaking in riddles since he betrayed Bryan. So I would like there to be a little bit more forward momentum, but I figure that's not going to come until after Wrestle Dream. But the motivations could be a little clearer.
Yeah, and at the end of the show, they almost implied that there was somebody else driving Moxley.
Yes.
Which seems a little weird to me. I would figure Moxley was his own driving force, that he sees something wrong within AEW, and he has taken it upon himself to fix that. And I think you can look at AEW and see within the last 5 years whether you want to look at the ratings going down, or perhaps you aren't enjoying the stories as much, as I think we did have a little bit of a downturn in the stories for a while, though we've discussed this quite a bit. We're definitely back on an upswing.
Absolutely.
And whatever it is, AEW has obviously changed and evolved. As we say hello to Daniel Berry, welcome in, our friend Daniel. You can see that AEW has evolved and changed, and perhaps I thought it was Moxley trying to get them back to what they were at the beginning of the show 5 years ago. But now they're implying that there's somebody else and there's something else. And I don't know if I like that. I guess we'll see who and or what that is or could be. But I really wanted it initially just to be Mox. Now, Producer Boy via our page in the comments saying, I think the jokes about Shane being behind Mox might be true. Maybe. I mean, it wouldn't be the first time we saw Shane back Moxley. You go back to those golden days of SmackDown Live, where you had Shane and Bryan running the show and Moxley as champion. You could see Shane perhaps, believing in Mox over Bryan, who at some point I think they faced off against each other. So, or at least they turned. I forget. It was a long time ago. It was like 2011. But it's possible. I would hope not. I like Shane a lot. I don't think I need him in AEW. I don't know how you feel about that, James, but I don't think I need him there.
I mean, I think we are due, even before we really get into the show, we do need to talk about the state of AEW. Some great news came out today, and we really should discuss that, I think, regarding television. But even beyond that, we've been seeing these teases of Shane McMahon for quite a while now. The initial conversation, that initial picture that leaked between hello?
Yep. All right, James. You are lagging a bit tonight, James. As we say hello to you, know it. What's going on, man? Jericho approved. I don't know if Shane McMahon would be, but we'll see. As James gets things together, though, I will move on. We'll get to the big news about the TV stuff later, as we headed into our initial match, which saw Will Ospreay face off against Ricochet for the AEW International Championship. Now, there was a bit of stuff that happened before this match, as after Ricochet entered, we went briefly backstage to see Kyle Fletcher there hyping up Ospreay and helping him get ready for the match. However, they're then interrupted by that carny piece of shit, Don Callis and Konosuke Takeshita. Don tells Will that they need to discuss what happened last week, much to the surprise of Ospreay. Who's like, Don, I have a match, like, right now. And so Don's like, yes, of course, I'm sorry. We'll discuss it later. And then turns to Fletcher and says, hey, we got to get out of here. We got a flight to catch, which also surprised Fletcher. Fletcher's like, okay, yeah, sure, as he wishes Ospreay luck, and Don basically starts dragging him out. We then have Takeshita hang back and stare down Ospreay, and the two of them just stare at each other until Ospreay eventually decides to make his way to the ring. I will now jump to the end of this match, which we saw. Sorry, my screen's down over here, and it's throwing me off tonight. I'm in a new part of my house just to avoid technical difficulties, so I do apologize if I'm a little out of practice. Anyway, after hitting an Oz cutter, Ospreay went for the hidden blade, but Ricochet was able to duck it and actually hit a hidden blade of his own before going up top and hitting a shooting star press that Ospreay is able to kick out of. Ricochet then got Ospreay up on his shoulders for the vertigo, but Ospreay was able to beautifully counter that with a poison rana. And then Ricochet somehow followed that up with a poison rana of his own. Ospreay, when he lands, then bounces back up, somehow hits a fucking hidden blade, and both men fall onto each other. And we somehow get it where they're both on each other and on each other's shoulders and pinning each other, and we got a double pinfall, resulting in a draw, according to referee Rick Knox. However, both men look at each other and look at the crowd, and they start signaling that they want to restart the match. And eventually, the Dapper Yapper, Justin Roberts, gets word that Tony Khan has indeed approved the match being restarted. And the two just immediately start going after it. Hockey fight in the middle of the ring. After that, they just keep trading heavy blows. And then Ospreay manages to create a little bit of space where he's able to rear back and hit another hidden blade onto Ricochet. And now both men are down. And it's at this point that Takeshita takes this opportunity to come into the ring and fuck up everybody's night by giving us the second sketchy finish of this one match where he comes in and causes disqualification, jumping Will Ospreay. He beats Will Ospreay down. He eventually grabs the title and holds it above Ospreay. Ricochet gets up and he gets absolutely blasted by Takeshita, and the two men are left lying as Takeshita eventually leaves. I will start with the match here. The match itself was good. I think that these two guys have wrestled each other a lot. I'm pretty sure that Excalibur said they've gone at each other in singles competition 9 times before this, with Ospreay having a 5-4 advantage. So it's kind of hard to do something new when you've been up against each other that many fucking times. They did some pretty cool stuff. You know, you could see this Hurricane Rana from the top of the barricade, which was awesome. And it's impossible for them not to have a good match because of how talented the two are. But I don't think this was their best one. And I despite the fact I haven't seen all of them, but even that one way back when, that really controversial one where everyone ended up seeing it and it was being described as very choreographed, and it really split at least the wrestling internet of whether or not it was a good match or just so choreographed it looked fake as hell. And I enjoyed what I saw of that match more than I think I did this one. Now, granted, I do think the two finishes, so to speak, did take away from it. I thought a double pinfall was a bit of a cop-out. I do get that you were trying to protect Ricochet here because he's brand new, he's on this win streak, and you don't want him losing so early as he joins AEW, as we welcome James back in. But at the same time, Ospreay has been one of, if not your biggest star recently, and I think you would have been okay having him beat Ricochet clean. I do get, James, that with this draw of the double pins, we were protecting both guys, and maybe we were just trying to avoid doing another time limit draw because we've seen them quite a few times in this situation where you have one of the top stars facing off against a hot new prospect, and we get the time limit draw a la Kenny versus Bryan and Grand Slam. But it didn't feel right. I thought it took away from the match. And then we get this great moment where they restart and we think everything's going to be cool. And then Takeshita comes in and ruins it again. So what I thought, James, was a pretty good match, though not the best by these two guys' standards, was infinitely taken away from by the two finishes of the matches. I don't know if it's one match or two, but either way, it just kind of took away from all of it.
I was so disappointed. I enjoyed the match quite a bit. I really don't dislike Ricochet. I don't want to ever be rooting against Ricochet, but the reality is I think this match kind of highlighted just how far Will Ospreay has come and how, in my opinion, Ricochet really hasn't evolved all that much in comparison. The beginning of the match, you have that classic homage to what put them on the map together where they have like they hit the dual superhero landing, they do everything.
Terrible for your knees.
Terrible for your knees.
Also, because they did that, they did the thing was the #2 trend in US on Twitter.
That's kind of hilarious. That is kind of hilarious.
All caps.
But to me, that's one of the 2 coolest things Ricochet has ever done. To me, though, that's maybe in the top 10 for some of the coolest things Ospreay has done. Maybe.
The original.
And I feel like that's generous. That whole bit. Yeah. Like the thing for Ricochet, it's the thing with Ospreay, and then the thing with He Who Shall Not Be Named in NXT, where he dives out of the ring, does the flip, and then lands looking all badass. You know, I think those are like Ricochet's 2 big highlight reel clips, as opposed to Ospreay, that I don't even know if it really does crack the top 10 anymore. But beyond that, I did think the match was fine. I did think both men did a good job. I've hated that double finish, that double pin situation for the last 20 years. Since Shawn Michaels and Triple H did that exact same pin spot way, way, way back when, I've hated it. It doesn't make any sense to me. The person on top is the person who's doing the pinning. I don't care if his fucking shoulders are on the mat. It's just stupid. The fact that Ricochet's hand was on top of Ospreay is one of the dumbest things ever.
Yeah, I mean, when you were fixing your technical difficulties, Producer Boy put up the clip of Becky and Sasha's double pinfall, and that was much more realistic because both of their legs were on top of each other's shoulders. Whereas this one, I had to go back and watch the replay to look at it, partially because I missed it because I was getting food out of the oven, and partially just because it didn't make any fucking sense to me. It didn't look like Ospreay was getting pinned at all. And maybe it was just they kind of screwed it up, and this was the finish, and the Knox just had to go with it. But it definitely wasn't executed cleanly at best. And at worst, it was just a terrible fucking idea. Well, it was a terrible fucking idea.
It was a bad idea. Ricochet did exactly what he was supposed to do. Ospreay was on top of him, but Ospreay's shoulders are on the mat, and Ricochet had his arm on top of Ospreay as Ospreay was laying on top of Ricochet.
Yeah, it's just
not I don't like it. I don't like it. I think it's a fucky way to end a match. And then I got super excited that they decided to keep it going and to roll it back. I thought that was great.
Right?
Only to then get immediately blue-balled again by Takeshita. Who, if there is a good thing about this, it's that Takeshita is getting some heat. If there's anything to enjoy, it's that Takeshita is getting something done, and he got some good heel heat tonight. He looked amazing taking out Ospreay and Ricochet.
Yeah, and we're furthering the story with Will and that carny piece of shit and Fletcher.
I agree.
Because I think we finally got some good movement there where we finally have somebody of the Don Callis family attacking Will. And whether or not Don actually sicked Takeshita on Will or not, remains to be seen. It was a question that was asked by commentary.
Yeah.
But I do believe it was Nigel that said, "What do you think?" But yeah, it's just, at least it's going somewhere now. You know, we've been teasing this for a while. We've been building it. And this is some of the biggest forward momentum we've had in this build in a minute.
I agree. Go into the comments real quick. I do want to agree with Eric here, who says he thinks Ricochet could benefit from being a heel. I think he's already showing signs of it. The promo that he had against the back and forth that he had against Ospreay either 2 weeks ago on Dynamite really showed the chip on his shoulder. Really showed the resentment. So he little broed him.
Oh, that's what it was.
He little broed him. So I think it would benefit him. I think he'll be able to get some of that cheap heat because we know he's not the best promo. And I think it's easier to get some heat as a heel than it is to try to get a face reaction when you're not good on the mic. And I think aligning him with Don Callis will do wonders for everybody because, quite frankly, the Callis family does not have enough. There just isn't enough people there. And Callis is a good voice box for Ricochet. Granted, it's a little bit harder to explain how we get there tonight after Takeshita took out Ricochet as well. but I'd be willing to take it. You know,
True.
I'd be willing to waive some things to make that connection happen.
I was initially thinking when you mentioned heel turn and he needed somebody to speak for. I actually first thing that popped in my head was MVP. But
MVP works, and we'll talk about MVP.
Yep. But in terms of
tonight.
in terms of a storyline, though, I think you're right. Callis does work better. It gives the family the numbers that they need so that when Fletcher leaves, you have Ricochet and Takeshita against Fletcher and Ospreay, which makes sense. And then whoever comes back first, whether it's Trent or Powerhouse Hobbs, I'm not sure which one.
He's clear already. Hobbs is clear. He's cleared.
Cool. So then you know what that says up for. One Mark Davis to come back in, and then we have the trio.
Apparently, Davis is in rough shape. Like, he is still apparently he's not ready to come back yet. And that sucks.
Is a fucking shame.
Granted, maybe we're getting worked. So good, maybe we are getting worked. I'm willing to say that that's possible, but I don't know. I also want to throw one other manager's name into the hat for Ricochet, who I think could do great with him. Sure. I think Stokely Hathaway would be a great fit for a heel Ricochet. I think he would be a great fit.
I'm laughing just because Stokely in general makes me laugh.
Don't blame you.
Because he weirdly works because he is a hilarious manager, but with somebody who's very serious in Statlander. And I think you could continue that as well with Ricochet. Now, I think that Stokely would have to leave Stat. I don't know if it would work if he was managing both of them. But, I think he would work with Ricochet. It'd be funny. And I would, in a good way. I would enjoy it. Well, but James, as you were finishing chewing, as for the match itself, I was saying before you got back that I did enjoy it, but I didn't think this was their best effort between the two of them. I think you made a good point that Ospreay has become leaps and bounds better than Ricochet, whereas Ricochet, I feel like, has stalled out. And maybe that's just because Ospreay was able to face talents such as, Okada and Omega while he was in New Japan, whereas Ricochet in NXT had good matches and was facing some top tier talent, but I mean, those guys are just on another level.
I don't want to attribute it. I don't want to attribute it too much to the competition that they faced, as much as I think it's the environments they were in. In New Japan, and then in AEW, Ospreay was allowed to develop at his own rate, at his own pace, and he made changes based off of what he was hearing from the crowd and what he was hearing from journalists and what he was hearing from his peers, that you're amazing, but if all you do is the flippy stuff, you're not only limiting yourself, you're going to create the possibility that you're really going to injure yourself one day. He adapted. He changed his body type. He changed his style, and he still incorporates a lot of his old stuff, but he's way more than that now. He's not just a guy who's going to hit a 630 senton, which is fucking incredible because it's a 630 senton. But he's got moves like the Stormbreaker. He's got moves like the Hidden Blade. He's got so much more than what he just was. And I feel like Ricochet had to be the flippy guy because that's what brought him to WWE. But he had to be a limited flippy guy because WWE doesn't want you to do too much.
Right. In case you injure yourself.
So it was a weird position for somebody like Ricochet to be in. And I think it also helps that I personally think Ospreay is so much better on the mic than Ricochet.
Yeah.
So Ospreay and Ricochet are so good when you don't have some boring bastards whining on Twitter about them. Well, we're not on Twitter right now. I don't think I'm boring. I don't think you're boring either.
We are live on Twitter. But no, I agree with you. I think you make a good point about the environments and, the routes they ended up taking in their career. I think the other reason this match wasn't as good as just as Excalibur said, they faced each other 9 friggin' times already. That's a lot of times. There's only so much new stuff you can do. And at a certain point, things get a little stale. And while I was excited, this was her first match in AEW. This is Ricochet's first match out of WWE since he went there, or first big match, excuse me.
I was gonna say, yeah, he's wrestled a few times.
Yeah. So I understand the hype, but it just it didn't land for me. I think they had done stuff better previously, and because of all of those reasons, it was a good match. It wasn't a great match.
Yeah. Going to Producer Boy's tweet, I do agree. I think that's sort of where we're leading. I think we are going to get a triple threat of Ospreay, Ricochet, and Takeshita. Probably at Wrestle Dream, maybe a little after. But yeah, you know that match is going to fuck.
Yeah. Too much talent in that ring for it not to. And maybe that's why they held back a little tonight. But
yeah. You know it saying, doesn't it kind of speak to WWE's development as far as Ricochet? I don't want to crap on WWE's developmental as somebody who just watched NXT last night.
And
the issue is and reviewed it. When Ricochet joined NXT, it was way less a developmental brand at that point. It was more like WWE's indie third brand. They weren't looking to train guys like Ricochet. They weren't looking to train guys like Alistair / Malachi Black. They weren't looking to train that batch of talent that came in.
Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly, Bobby Fish, Roderick Strong. It was, hey, here's Ring of Honor again.
Eric saying in the comments that he thinks Takeshita would win that triple threat. I wouldn't be shocked. The fans have been clamoring for him to win gold in AEW. He's getting so popular that New Japan fans legitimately want him to win the IWGP title, even though it doesn't make any sense for him to.
And he's a DDT guy.
Right? He did just do the G1 for New Japan. But beyond that, though, I do think he's long overdue. He's long overdue for a title reign. And him being a heel and, doing it in the triple threat by not pinning Ospreay, but pinning Ricochet would be a good way to generate some heat for him. And it keeps Ospreay strong.
Yeah, and having that be Ricochet's first pinfall loss isn't that bad of a move. Yeah.
Eric going on to say, he said it before, but he'd say that WWE is like normally 78% right when it comes to guys they don't see star power in. Fuck.
Of all the things James was trying to say, the only thing that came through was an F-bomb. I think he's back. We could put him back up. But, James, are you with us? Nope, never mind. He froze again. All right, back to me. I think that's kind of fair. It depends. I think if you look at NXT now, that developmental system has gone back to being the developmental system it was before it became, the little mini indie fed that it was. And they're putting out good talent and they're letting people develop. You could look at a guy like Trick Williams who has developed. We always, I think, saw that star potential, but they've allowed him to develop. And even then, there are people they don't see star potential in who actually are able to develop and become superstars almost in spite of WWE. Whereas, like James said, when you look at Ricochet, I do think that the time and place when he was in NXT was a slight hindrance to him, just because it was, hey, keep all your flippy shit, but at the same time, don't do all of it because you need to work a WWE style, be safer, more rest holds, stuff like that. And it just became this thing where Ospreay was able to develop himself in a different way. And I think that allowed him to develop himself better as opposed to Ricochet, who ended up being kind of pigeonholed in WWE. And I think you saw the difference in the two routes that those two men took today. All right, we've spent a lot of time on this as James continues to try to fix the stuff. So let us go backstage as we got an interview with one Mercedes Monet. Mercedes says that she is honored to be a small part of the 5 years of Dynamite, and she has created a video package highlighting the greatest moments in those 5 years. Obviously, it's just highlights of her. It was about a 20-second highlight reel of just her. And as we come back to the interview, Mercedes says that she has been the best part of Dynamite and will continue to thrive and prosper because Monet changes everything. As we then see from Producer Boy, MVP enters the chat, and he comes over saying that he loves big business, and he says that they could do some big business together, handing Mercedes his card and saying that they should talk before the two of them, before he excuses himself. Both Mercedes and Camille look at the card rather quizzically, trying to decide whether or not they would like to speak to MVP or if he's just being weird and an idiot. It was, I did like it though. It was very interesting, and it kind of gives MVP something other than, hey, he's going to bring in the Hurt Business guys. So curious to see what happens there. We then went to commercial and came back, this time to a backstage interview with the Guns, which followed a very quick recap of what happened last week. I believe it was that, with Hangman Adam Page in the strap match at Grand Slam Collision with Juice Robinson and the Guns. So Renee asks about the upcoming match between Juice and Hangman tonight. And the Guns have said, before answering, decide to hype up the crowd there in Pittsburgh. But before they can even get like 2 words out, they are immediately attacked by Hangman Adam Page, who is carrying a steel chair, and they are both left lying in the back. As commentary partially tries to explain it away, where Hangman was trying to even the odds, and then Shivani at the same time says, no, he's just completely lost touch with reality. Even if he was trying to even the odds, that is just utterly ridiculous. We then went back into the ring, and hi, guys. It's time for TV time with the Learning Tree, Chris Jericho. After he is given a nice introduction by Big Bill, as we welcome James back in once again.
I will pay whatever tech nerd I can. Figure my shit out. Please.
That would be me. Probably.
Please, tech nerd. You're my only hope.
I will do my best. I like it. Dude, I am in a completely different room tonight because I can't even figure my own Wi-Fi shit out. So, but hey, at least I'm on the part of the house with the good Wi-Fi strength. Anyway, hi guys. Jericho comes out after an introduction from Big Bill and says that they're in AEW, have made a lot of people look like stupid idiots by making it to 5 years of Dynamite, and it is all thanks to him, of course. It was also coincidentally the 34th anniversary of him starting in wrestling, and congratulations to Jericho on that. And nowadays, he says he is focused on helping the branches of the Learning Tree grow and prosper and getting as much TV time as possible. But he says after selling out Arena Mexico and beating Mark Briscoe last week, he wants to move forward and start to refocus a little bit on championships, saying he wants to leave behind the Ocho and bring in the Nueve. And he then challenges Mark Briscoe, who is the Ring of Honor World Champion, to a match for that title at Wrestle Dream. We then have the conglomeration come out, and Briscoe has them stay outside the ring. And I believe Jericho also had Bill and Brian Keith jump out of the ring as well. And the two of them went face-to-face in the ring. Mark says that, Jericho did get a pinfall win on him last week, despite the fact it was Big Bill doing all of the heavy lifting and Briscoe had him dead to rights. But a pinfall is a pinfall, and there's nothing he could do about it. That's a tornado tag. That's just how it goes. So that then earns Jericho a Ring of Honor title shot. But Mark is actually pretty okay with that because this then allows him to beat Jericho and put the head of a legend up on his wall. Jericho cuts him off, saying that beating him is no small order, and is something that everyone knows Mark isn't good enough to do. His brother Jay was good enough to do it, but not anymore. This pisses Briscoe off, and he lunges at Jericho, who falls backwards and quickly scrambles back towards the ropes where Big Bill is. And Briscoe then tells Jericho he shouldn't have done that. And because with the word of the day being consequences, the consequences for Jericho are that he's going to get a Briscoe brothers ass whooping when they face each other for the Ring of Honor Championship at Wrestle Dream. So, James, we're getting another Chris Jericho Ring of Honor title shot. I think I'm okay with this. It should be a fun enough match. I'm curious to see if it's a straight up match or they end up doing a stipulation. And I'm curious to see how much involvement the conglomeration and the branches have in this match, because it just feels like it's just going to be a beautiful clusterfuck.
I think it will be. I'm not actually worried about Jericho winning. I think this is to give Mark a really big defense on pay-per-view. And if you look at it, Jericho's been losing his feuds. He lost multiple times to Hook. He lost to Orange Cassidy. And I think he's going to lose to Briscoe. And I think that's the right play. I think he should be losing to Briscoe. But I wonder if this is to establish that the learning tree isn't so doesn't have too much of a strong foundation. So I'm intrigued at what the outcome will be for Jericho. I'm not invested in his story. I'm not invested in what he's doing. And if I'm going to be really honest, I don't know if it's just because I've got my own love and connection to the Briscoes. The Jay thing felt like such cheap heat.
It did. And especially because I think that's the first time somebody has brought it up in this manner.
Yeah, I was going to say that too. I think we made it, just over a year before somebody brought up Jay like that. And it's a bummer. But I'm sure obviously nobody said or did anything that wasn't approved. Jericho didn't decide to shoot there and fuck around with Mark. I'm sure Mark knew that was coming and Mark okayed it. But It just felt cheap to me. It really did just feel cheap to me. And maybe that's what Jericho was going for. Maybe Jericho wanted cheap heat. But it didn't do anything for me, really. The match will be fine come Wrestle Dream. And I really, really hope Mark wins. I really hope Mark wins. But it's not because of tonight. It's not because Jericho got cheap heat. I just don't want to see Jericho as Ring of Honor champion again. And
agreed.
Granted, we joke here on the pod about Ring of Honor in general. But it is still a brand. It is still something that is worth investing in some capacity. And I'd much rather see Mark Briscoe be the face of that brand than Jericho at this point. When Jericho won the ROH title, when he became the Ocho, it worked for that little bit of time. You know, what's his name? Tony was looking to get a TV deal for Ring of Honor. It didn't work out. Tony was looking to establish Ring of Honor as a big deal, and Jericho as a heel champion that you want to see get dethroned makes a lot of sense. That really does work. But at this point, no, thank you. Any title Jericho may ever win again in AEW should either be a tag belt, no matter the division, or a mid-card belt. It doesn't matter the division.
Yeah, if he ended up with the TNT title, I think we'd be okay with it. I don't necessarily even want him to get the International or the Continental, weirdly enough. But, Producer Boy keeps showing all of these tweets of just, people shitting on Jericho. I'm kind of enjoying the work he's doing at the moment. I weirdly came around.
It's a very, very divisive character and gimmick, because there are people who appreciate it, even if it's ironically. There are people who appreciate it. Too far for Christian Cage. But there are people who appreciate it. And then there are people who, when they see Jericho, it's just instant change the channel material or instant bathroom break material. So I don't know. Going back to what Eric said, he could see Big Bill winning the ROH title. I don't know why. I actually really agree.
I'm okay with this, and here's why. And it's something I've been wanting to bring up for a moment here in this segment. I think it was 2 weeks ago, Jericho is cutting that promo about how the only thing you really need to know in this industry is that no one's there to help you, and at some point everyone's going to stab you in the back. And you can see Bill looking at him like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, is he going to stab me in the back? And I kind of feel like Bill is now a little bit on his toes about Jericho. Maybe Keith as well. The camera angle wasn't too much on Keith, but you could see that he was kind of just side-eyeing Jericho in that moment as well. And I could see them kind of running almost like a Randy Orton-esque thing where Jericho can't win the title and then Bill does. And I'm just kind of thinking of that now because Eric put that in the chat, but it could kind of make sense. Yeah, they're going to do Randy and Evolution with him. Weirdly on the same wavelength with Producer Boy. That never happens.
Randy Orton, Big Bill. When I think of Randy Orton and I think of that star power, I think of Big Bill too.
But I do think it works. And
it does.
I think part of the reason I have been enjoying the Jericho stuff is because I am invested in Keith and Bill. I want to see these two guys succeed. I very quickly fell in love with Keith. I say this all the time. And that weird Ring of Honor TV championship match. I still don't even know what the rules were, but he just kicked ass and he was awesome. And Bill, obviously, we both of us have loved him for a very long time since WWE. And now that he's back and gotten his life together and is doing great work, we want to see him succeed. And both or either of them getting the rub off from Jericho by doing a similar storyline to Randy Orton Evolution, I think would work very well. And even if they get the upper hand on Jericho and they, turn face on him first, almost a la Batista then, because they heard Jericho say that he was essentially going to stab them in the back. So I do think that this could actually work. And despite everyone bitching and complaining about Jericho, they could actually elevate two guys in this situation. And say what you will about the character, you have to appreciate Jericho's ability to do that.
No, I agree. I think it's really just been an issue of diminishing returns with Jericho. How many people are actually being elevated by it? Like, is Hook any better off than he was before facing Jericho? I don't know.
No, but part of that I think is because Joe left.
And I'd agree. And I would agree to that. But he's not even teaming up with Shibata anymore.
True. That makes no sense.
It's weird. And like Orange the first time was definitely elevated in the feud with Jericho. But like, is Orange in a better place now that he's beaten Jericho again? I don't think so. Same
place. But Orange is already so high up, partially because of that Jericho feud, that it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. Whatever. Let's just get through Wrestle Dream with them and then see what we go to from there. But I agree. It would be nice to see Big Bill be utilized a little bit more, a little bit better, and be put in a better position. I've been advocating for him strongly since his W. Morrissey run in TNA and Impact. And I know what he's capable of, and I know that he's capable of getting over. So let it happen here. Let it happen here.
Do you think he's capable of being the Ring of Honor World Champion?
Ring of Honor champion, absolutely. I think he could put on some bangers. I think he could put on some real fun stuff. And I think as Ring of Honor champion, like, look, the reality is the ROH belts don't have the same value as an AEW belt. The ROH World title and the ROH Women's title have weight to it because they are so prominent on TV, and
they have history with them as well.
It's not going to derail anything in AEW to make Big Bill the Ring of Honor champion. It gives him something shiny to carry around of note, but it's not him winning the Continental title. It's not him winning the TNT title. It's not him winning the international title. So fuck it. Yeah. Why not?
And I think it's an opportunity to see if he can get one of those titles, whether it's the international or TNT or whatever it is.
Yeah,
I think it's a low risk, high reward situation where if he doesn't do well, then so be it. But if he does do well, then you have a guy that you can put a belt on and be very comfortable with him having it, knowing he'll have a good run.
Wait 1 second. Back to that clip. Was the AJ being referenced there, AJ of the Costco guys? Because now oh my God. Oh
I
my
am
God.
so sick of them.
I don't know what it is about them that is so unsettling. Like, I am happy for anybody who can make their bank doing the most off the wall shit. If you could find a way to screw and trick the algorithm and get people to follow you, God bless you.
Yeah,
But
we're
there's
working
just
on
something, yeah, right. Doing our best. But there's just something about them that is, I don't know. It's like a car wreck. Like, I can't not look. But whatever.
I will. It just put a major spoiler in the chat. I don't know if it was true.
I saw it.
We'll see. I think my thing with the Costco guys is the father has been trying to go viral for so many years, just trying random shit over and over and over again, and just finally hit one, and it's just in the most annoying way possible, at least for me. But look, if you like that type of thing, do your thing. I don't care. But
you don't like the double chocolate chunk chip cookie?
I don't even know what you mean. I do like that cookie though. Costco is phenomenal cookies, and I will go to bat for Costco every day. Sponsor us, Costco. But no, I don't need these guys shoving their products down my throat or anything else for that matter.
Not even a chicken bake. Chicken bake.
I don't think I've ever had one. There was rotisserie chickens there is really good.
Their hot dog. God bless them.
You know damn well.
God bless them.
$5. I think a hot dog and a soda is $5. And to quote the CEO, I will fucking kill you if you raise the
less.
price.
I think it's less.
Is it less than $5? Whatever it is, maybe it's $2. Whatever it is, the CEO literally threatened to kill people if they ever change the price.
You raise the price of that hot dog and I'll fucking kill you is I think the quote, and I love it.
Yep.
I also love that we're talking about Costco, but we're not talking about AEW because they have that contract with AEW now.
There you go. We're still somehow on topic because we don't go on tangents here on the Markdown.
Not here, not ever.
But let us get back on topic to Dynamite tonight and move on to our next segment, which was a promo package from Darby Allin, who was in a junkyard, it looked like, or at least by a junked car. So Darby starts telling a story about how he got in a 3-on-1 fight on a bus where some guys were spitting on his head, and then dude pulled a knife on him, and he went after it anyway, and everybody pulled it apart. And that all led to him saying that's how he felt and all he could think about when he was facing off against Jon Moxley last week. He says it's live by the sword, die by the sword. And while he should be ready to become face of the company, all he continues to do is fight, even if he ends up losing, and people start to lose faith in him because of that. And because of all of this and because of the mounting frustration, Darby then issues an open challenge at Wrestle Dream, saying that he has nothing left to lose. Very curious to see who that's going to be. Should be fun. Any early predictions, James?
No, not really.
All right. All right, well, then let's move on to our next match, which saw Hangman Adam Page face off against Juice Robinson. As I mentioned earlier, the Ass Boys were attacked in the back by Hangman for this match, and this all came about after the it wasn't a strap match. It was a lumberjack strap match, I think.
Yeah, it was a lumberjack strap match.
Yes, on Collision, and Juice and the Ass Boys really got into it with Hangman. So as Juice made his entrance, Hangman, who had entered first, comes running up the ramp, and he meets Juice at the top of the stage, and the two of them start brawling, with Juice briefly utilizing the strap from last week, and then the two fought their way into the stands, where Juice got the upper hand by throwing what Shivani called a beer into Hangman's face. I'm fairly certain it was a hard soda, a hard salsa, because it was clear, but it still had fizz.
These are the real mysteries of wrestling that we will get to the bottom of here at the Market Down podcast.
Yeah, it could have been a vodka or some other clear liquid and soda or Sprite or something like that as well, but definitely not a beer. It was clear. So anyway, he throws that into Hangman's face, and then that allows Juice to get the upper hand as he drags Hangman back down to the ring, and the match officially gets underway. That tide, however, quickly turned, but I will jump back towards the end of the match, where after Juice was able to counter a top rope Deadeye attempt, he then got to his feet and powerbombed Hangman after he carried him across the ring, forcing Hangman to kick out at 2. Juice then attempted to Juice is loose, but Hangman countered and again went for the Deadeye, and Juice counters that counter, and in doing so, grabs a rear waist lock onto Paige. Paige then drags Juice towards the corner, where he then sort of traps referee Aubrey Edwards and begins to grab at her. This distracts Aubrey and allows Hangman to hit the back kick low blow, knocking Juice straight to the ground. Hangman takes quick advantage of this, jumps to the outside of the apron, and hits a buckshot lariat to pick up the dub. After the match, Hangman takes his belt off and immediately went after Juice, whipping him a few times with it before bringing him over to the side of the ring, wrapping the belt around Juice's neck and attempting to hang him. And weirdly enough, I feel like Hangman hasn't tried to hang people enough, at least in AEW. It's more of a recent thing.
So
I don't know if he did it in New Japan, but or Ring of Honor.
He had a dog collar match against Frankie Kazarian in Ring of Honor, which is quite possibly one of the bloodiest and roughest matches I've seen ever. And he hung him from there.
Hanged.
He was never super crazy about the hangman concept. He never really wanted to lean into the hanging. He at one point early on, he would come out with a noose. But,
I remember that. It looked cool.
But he stopped doing it after he got a letter from somebody, a fan, who said that a family member had unfortunately committed unaliving. Yeah, and it through that method, and Hangman didn't want his fans to associate that, so he stopped with the hanging. He stopped with the noose. But fuck it, he's a heel now, so I guess he doesn't care. But yeah,
he's also a completely unhinged heel. So
yeah, so
I mean, he just burned a dude's house down. I think hanging people is
arguably justified. Arguably justified.
There's justified, and then there's that.
Here's the thing: burning Swerve's house down. Sure, life, whatever. It's wrestling. We all got to deal with it.
Arson's 5 years.
Attacking Evil Uno with a chair, though, fucked up.
Yeah.
That's when I knew he had gone too far.
I did want to comment quickly on that Juice spot. That cannonball through the barricade was dope. I'm glad they showed it.
I loved this whole bit. I loved everything Hangman was a part of tonight. Taking out the ass boys with the chair was a great bit prior to the match.
The match itself, which wasn't a match for quite a while. They were just fighting for a good long while, and I love that. That is how, when I am a heel and I am playing 2K, that is typically what I do. I will attack my opponent before the bell starts. I will beat the shit out of them with every weapon I can because I can't get DQ'd, and then I throw them in and I pin them after what becomes a 3-second match. So James Ultimate Cheeser in 2K.
When I'm a heel, when I'm playing heel, most of the time I play babyface, but when I'm playing a heel, wow, okay,
James, you're the babyface. Come on.
But I love that aspect of it. I love that these guys were like, fuck it, we want to beat the shit out of each other first. The wrestling will come after, and then they had the match. Hangman still cheated to win. And I think that just like he's just the bad guy now. There's no denying it. He's just the bad guy.
She's in very young Bucks fashion, I might add.
Yeah.
That is a young Bucks signature.
Absolutely.
It's right up there with more bang for your buck.
So I loved it, and then I loved Jay White afterwards.
Yes. Just to run it down for everybody, as Hangman was attempting to hang Juice, we had, and Shivani was calling for somebody to come down, or actually, excuse me, it was Excalibur, because he was like, get security, get the police, and then we hear the Switchblade music, and then Excalibur just goes, or Switchblade Jay White? So, great call from Excalibur. But as Hangman is looking up towards the tunnels for Jay comes in from behind through the crowd and takes Hangman out with a massive lariat. The two then briefly brawl, and Hangman attempts to escape out through the ring and into the crowd. And after checking on Juice, which I thought was a nice touch, Switchblade then immediately goes after Hangman, and the two brawl in the crowd for a bit until Jay is eventually able to get the upper hand and drive Hanger through a table that was set up during the pre-match brawl. Jay went then back into the ring to help Juice out and stand tall talking shit to Hangman. So, yes, I am very excited that Jay White is back. I know Producer Boy is very excited that Jay White is back. I guess we are continuing the Bang Bang Gang. There was a lot of speculation that Jay would maybe be leaving them, but he made the save here on Juice, and Juice is still running with the Ass Boys, so it looks like we're going to keep them together, which I am pretty happy with as well, as long as Jay gets some big-time singles opportunities and hopefully a singles belt in the near future.
I think the big thing is he needs to beat Hangman. He needs to beat Hangman. He cannot afford to lose to Hangman. And that's a scary place because Hangman shouldn't really be losing either. I think something very interesting that you didn't mention, and I don't know if you noticed, I don't know if anybody really noticed, Switch and Juice went back up the heel tunnel. I don't know if they're still going to be the bad guys. I don't know if they're just going to be popular bad guys. I don't know what their plan is.
They'll be getting pops, and
it's impossible not to. They're so fucking fun. They're so fucking cool. And we knew it. We knew it with Switch. So I love this. Switch looked like $1 million. I'm so glad to have him back. He's been missed. He's genuinely been missed on TV.
Yeah,
so I'm so glad that he's back.
He's a big part of that roster. I think people miss that. He's so fucking talented.
He needs a belt.
He's a big hole.
He needs a belt. I don't know which belt. I don't know when, but he needs a belt sooner than later. If I'm going to be honest, I would love for him, like if Christian Cage pulls this off with the contract, with the cash in, I think Switch is the guy who should take it off of him, considering what happened with the Patriarchy and the Bang Bang Gang.
Yeah, that's true. And it was, I believe, the Patriarchy that did he injure Jay? No, they said on commentary Hangman ended up injuring Jay. But everything
when did that happen?
I don't know, which is weird because the Patriarchy was feuding with the Bang Bang Gang. Maybe they just had a match at random, but it was because of that injury that the Bang Bang Gang was forced to vacate the titles because
but I could have swore that was Christian.
They had one, and then Christian came in, and then they had a whole like big feud over them with the House of Black, and they had that three-way trios match, which was insane.
Still so messy how we got there, but
yeah, it was incredibly messy, which is why I'm completely not remembering the fact that Hangman injured Jay. Yeah. But I do agree with you though that it would make sense that Jay would be the eventual person to take the title off of Christian, and you can turn him face, which I think at this point you can just have him keep doing the same things and he'd still be face a la Swerve. Yeah. But, and B, like, this is a dude can run with that title and be fine. If not that title, give me the feud with the fucking Elite.
God.
Give me the Bang Bang Gang versus the Elite in a 4-on-4. Let all hell go crazy and give Jay the win over Okada and have him get the Continental title.
Well, we did do a boom after all.
Oh, whoops. Shit. No, that was John Madden boom, not the other two idiots. Boom.
I thought it was Adam Cole boom.
Oh. Well, no, I don't even know. Well, he's still God knows where. So
Singletown.
Yeah. Maybe, allegedly.
I think they totally are. But regardless, baseless speculation for another day.
Yeah. Also, it'd be pretty nice to see Jack Perry versus Juice for the TNT Championship. That would be cool.
God. Who's got the better pair, Jack Perry or Juice? It has to be Jack Perry, right?
I put it on the poll. Who has the better pair, Jack Perry or Juice? But this does give me the opportunity to move on to our next segment, which was a backstage interview with Jack Perry. And Renee was in the back waiting for him as he pulled up in his scapegoat mobile. And
Well put.
as he got out of the bus, he is intercepted by one Kazuchika Shibata, who says to him via phone, I believe it was me, you, TNT title at Wrestle Dream. Jack says, I'll think about it, and walks away. And as Shibata goes back into his phone, presumably to bring up the next thing to speak to Renee, he is then blindsided by Jack, who beats the shit out of him and throws him up into the bus and accepts Shibata's challenge for Wrestle Dream and then bounces his head off the bus once more for good measure. So after we set that up last week at Collision, I think it was. Yes, it was Collision because it was weird. Okay, so for those of you who watched Collision, that match was filmed before Dynamite. And then everything else on Collision was filmed after. And James, I don't know if you saw this, but as the cat returns, I can see the tail. Somebody on Squared Circle realized that when they started brawling by the announce table, that Riccaboni and Shivani and I think Nigel weren't there. Oh. And in order to cover for it, when they were dubbing it, Nigel goes, look, even Riccaboni ducked underneath the table. And Riccaboni was just like, yeah, well, what did you expect? These are two very dangerous men, and Suzuki has a chair. So that was really funny. But for those of you who are wondering why that was all kind of disjointed, that episode of Collision, that's why. It was more of a collection of segments or matches than anything else. And the MXM segment, which was funny. Okay, after that, we came back from commercial with a Bryan Danielson backstage promo before his match in the main event. Danielson that says that he's had only one thought on his mind the entire day. Fuck Jon Moxley. I do love they're just letting him throw the F word around.
Dropping him. He's leaving. He'll pay every fine. He doesn't give a shit.
Oh, they bleeped this one, so it was good. It was a pre-tape. So, however, Bryan says he then realized that this title isn't his world title or Moxley's world title. It is AEW's world title. And in the past 5 years, AEW has turned the world on its head and become the place where the best wrestle, which is why he ended up challenging Okada tonight, as they are both 1-1, and Okada has broken Bryan's wrist and his orbital bone. And while Okada's title will only be on the line for the first 20 minutes of the match tonight, which we'll talk about later, the AEW title and Bryan's career will be on the line the entire time, every second of the match, as he says, and he wouldn't want it any other way. So good pre-match hype promo from Bryan. I expect nothing less from this man. And just let him keep saying fuck.
Yeah, he's earned it.
Absolutely. We then moved on to our next match. We saw Dr. Britt Baker, D.M.D, in her hometown of Pittsburgh, face off against Professor Serena Deeb. We had the AEW Women's World Champion, Mariah May, sitting at ringside. I saw somebody on Twitter post a picture of Mariah sitting right next to them, and there's a guy behind her who was just not paying attention to the match, and I cannot blame him. Anyway, I'll jump to the end of this match where after kicking out of an air raid crash, Deeb was forced into the corner by Britt, but when Britt charged, Deeb was able to counter, and she went up to the top rope. Britt then met her up there, and after some hand fighting, Britt was able to get Deeb up for and hit an avalanche air raid crash that Deeb again was able to kick out of. And when Deeb kicked out, Britt got a little distracted and frustrated, and Deeb went for a quick roll-up. Britt was able to kick out of that herself and was able to quickly transition into the lockjaw, quickly forcing Deeb to tap out. After the match, Britt went to celebrate with her family, as again, she is in her hometown. And guess what? Somebody in their hometown won a match. But Deeb quickly attacked her from behind. Britt is then saved by Queen Aminata, with whom Deeb has been feuding with over on Collision. And she just came in, double-legged Deeb, and kicked her ass, essentially. And she drove Deeb out of the ring, much to the amusement of Mariah at ringside. So, James, this match was very typical Britt Baker.
Yeah.
And I don't like saying this because I'm a big fan of Britt, but I feel like saying it's very typical Britt Baker doesn't mean as much as it used to.
Yeah.
Now, granted, Britt's been through a major injury, and I understand she has lost a step, maybe two, but it is certainly noticeable that she has lost that step. And I still like Britt a lot, but I've seen Deeb and Britt matches that are much, much better than this. It felt slow and just not as crisp as I know. I know Deeb can still be crisp, but Britt, she's lacking that crispness, and I just don't know if it's lack of reps or if the injury really has slowed her down. As you know, it agrees with me saying she just doesn't seem right. I'm with you, dude. She just isn't 100% yet, and James, I can very clearly see that in her matches.
I mean, look, we have to acknowledge too, and I'm not putting that on you, but she didn't really have an injury. She almost had a stroke. Like, her body is definitely not where it was. This isn't a matter of I broke a bone and I got to retrain it. I got to strengthen it up again. This isn't I tore something and I got to make it stronger. This is her body, her brain wasn't working properly. And now she's rewiring herself. So I'm willing to give her a little bit of patience there. I am willing to give her some grace that it takes some time to get back into the swing of things. Yeah. The other huge factor here is, and please correct me if I'm wrong, maybe she's showing up and I'm not seeing it. Is this not her first match since the Mercedes match?
I believe it is, as far as I know, unless she did something on Collision or Rampage. I can't think of one, and it only feels like it's her fourth or fifth match back in total.
Exactly. If you are struggling to get your footing and you're only having a match every month, one match every month, because the match against Mercedes was what, a month and a half ago?
Give or take.
That's not how you get back into ring shape. That's not how you shake the rust. So I can't fully blame her for any of this, dealing with her medical condition, recovering from her medical condition, and not being on TV, not wrestling. Like, I was shocked she wrestled tonight. I put it together, obviously, because of Britsburg. But
and
like, I'm thinking,
5-year anniversary, like, you kind of had to have her.
For sure, but I also was thinking, like, where the fuck has she been that she's getting such a bit? She's getting a slot tonight. So it's really weird how they're booking her. Again, like, there was the suspension that she had going into the match against Mercedes, and then there was radio silence on her after the match with Mercedes that they didn't even acknowledge Britt. They didn't talk about Mercedes versus Britt the next week on Dynamite. So something weird is definitely going on with her. I don't want to speculate about the real world stuff, you know, who she may or may not be with anymore, because it shouldn't be relevant. But there is definitely a story there with Britt Baker that we are not fully aware of.
Yeah, and I wasn't aware of how deep her medical history was there, how extreme it was. I've forgotten that.
Yeah.
And maybe that is why she is not wrestling as much. Maybe she just can't. And she's just trying to ease her way back in. But at this moment, I think it's very obvious that something is up with her physically, mentally, whatever it is. And it's just her matches are just not what they used to be.
Yeah.
Navarro was good, man. Ohupo as well, 5th-year anniversary was pretty good. Didn't like the finish of Ospreay Ricochet. Neither did we. Didn't need the restart of the match to be DQ'd within 2 minutes. 100% agree.
Yep.
We all got the real excitement of, hey, we're going to get a finish to this, only to immediately be, as James put it, blue-balled a second time.
Yeah,
so,
very weak way to finish it. You know it saying, he hates to say it, but Dark Elevation came in handy for just giving a wrestler a good warm-up match. You shouldn't hate to say it. So many people from the roster. You okay? Yeah, I see it. It's going around. Yeah. Yeah, that thing was gigantic. Like, I could catch it on the screen. That's how big it is.
Yep.
Holy crap. You know it. A lot of people on the roster wish that Dark and Elevation were back.
I think SRS tweeted that today. He was like, they want it back, and they're like trying to figure it out. It's just a pain.
Just make it a fucking YouTube show. Just make it a fucking YouTube show. You don't need to make it.
Was.
No, but I mean, like, you don't even need to make it any bigger. Just here's a match only for YouTube. And there you go. Add 2 matches. Like, I know that they do 2. I know they do a live show, and I know they do a taping whenever they do Dynamite. I know they do Dynamite, and I guess typically Rampage, and I know Collision does Ring of Honor. But it'll be fine.
It used to be the pre-show matches for at least Dynamite were dark. Or dark
and
elevation.
admittedly, it did make the night feel a lot longer. When you tape 8 matches for dark and for elevation,
There's only like 2.
No, it was a lot. I remember it being a bit. And just do 1 or 2 matches to send the crowd home happy, you know? Have like a jobber match in the beginning of the night, and then maybe have something go like 10 minutes at the end of the night for the crowd to like be like, oh, I like this. This is a nice way to go home. But man, they are missing it. They are Do you know who must be really missing Dark and Elevation the most? WWE. Because man, how many people did they sign once they saw AEW was putting them on Dark and Elevation?
Yeah.
So, yeah, you know it. Bring it back. I agree.
Yeah, I mean, and even if you want to do it where I think it was just because of the way Collision lined up with Grand Slam last week that they only did. One of the prelim matches was a Ring of Honor match. They think it was a Trios Championship match. It was Dustin and the Von Erichs against. It wasn't. It was a Proving Ground match, but it was against the varsity athletes, including Smart Mark Sterling. So that was like a 5-minute match. It was a squash because of Smart Mark. But even if you just did, instead of on a normal Dynamite taping where you do Dynamite Rampage, the 2 prelim matches, those are dark. And just even if you put dark out once a month, and just filmed, 2 matches before Dynamite and 2 matches before Collision a week, I think you'd be okay. Or even a half an hour show every week if you want to do that. Just like you said, to get people reps, get people on the show. Even if it's a quick match, people just want to see people on the show. So, I think that would be very, very smart. And it would be a good way to work in talent into the show where they maybe wouldn't normally get a shot just because they aren't part of the TV tapings at the moment. Or the TV storylines for that matter. All right, let's get back a little on track here as we went to a backstage interview with Hook. So, for those of you who didn't see this, they mentioned earlier in the night that Taz wasn't going to be on the show, and he was obviously replaced by Nigel. And they revealed later that Taz was attacked in the parking lot by an unknown assailant, and he was checked out by medical, and it was advised that he returned home to New York where he could seek the opinion of his own doctor. So Renee then went to ask Hook. I fucking missed him. With a lefty backhand on the door frame. I need the flip flop. It's easier. Chancla is so good for fucking killing bugs. Anyway, Renee obviously asked Hook about Taz. Excuse me. And Hook actually struggled to keep his emotions together while trying to respond, pausing a few times, even turning around and slapping a road case. Thank you for slapping it, Hook, and not punching it. That is how you break your hand. Ask any pitcher ever on any team. It happens at least twice a year. Anyway, Hook then turned around and said that if you start shit with my family, I'm going to come for you. And he walked off, clearly still very emotional. There have been unconfirmed reports in our chat over who attacked Taz, which means they gave it up on Rampage, I guess, or somebody figured it out. I just haven't been able to check. It's not that I don't believe you, you know it. I just haven't been able to verify it independently. But if you want to go check that out for yourselves, I'm sure you can figure it out if you don't want to wait. If that is true, it was a very interesting name, and I am shocked and a little excited. Moving on to our
so
next.
Fucking bizarre. It's so bizarre.
Yeah. And if it is true, it kind of threw me off for our next segment because they quickly went to a Christian Cage backstage promo where he spouted off all of his accolades. I put titles on the thing. I was like, he doesn't have any titles. All of his accolades saying he's the face of TNT now and forever. He's the reigning, defending, undisputed future AEW World Champion. And he finished off by saying, soon I will have it all, hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah.
And I immediately thought,
I did too.
He's the one who attacked Taz. But we're not getting...
It wouldn't make any sense. Why? I mean, all right, he's a father.
Taz?
He's a father. That's Christian's whole thing. But if you're focusing on the belt, why do a side quest on Taz? I don't know.
It could have just been a red herring. That's a thing that people do use. It is a literary device.
Yeah, no, it's true, and we'll find out for sure. But I do want to take this time just to use Christian to again offer the pod's well wishes to Luchasaurus, who unfortunately is suffering from pneumonia and had it in both lungs, and he had to be rushed to the hospital. We hope he's okay. We hope that there's a quick... What's so funny?
I don't mean to laugh during this, but you called him Luchasaurus, and the first thing I went was he's Kill Switch in my head.
Fuck that. He's Luchasaurus.
I'm sorry.
I
don't mean to make light of the situation, but Christian is yelling at me in my ear. Sorry.
Of course,
you're doing a really good job too.
Of course, Christian Cage would be yelling in your ear.
Yes.
Yeah.
Much better father figure for me.
Jesus Christ. We do wish Luchasaurus / Kill Switch the best and speedy recovery. This isn't anything to laugh about. Not you, not talking about you, but this isn't anything to scoff at. It was a very serious medical emergency, and we're just glad that he got the care that he needed. So hopefully good as new in no time.
Yeah, I read about that. It was pretty scary to read that that happened. I think they said he had less than 20% of his lungs functioning. So or something like that, or 20% of the oxygen he needed, whatever it was. So I am glad he's okay. All jokes aside, and hopefully he's able to recover quickly and
absolutely
be on to good and great health.
Absolutely.
All right. We awkwardly transition off of that to another backstage interview as we had the AEW Women's World Champion Mariah May standing by with Renee Paquette. Renee starts to ask Mariah about her Grand Slam experience with Willow making the save after she attacked Yuka Sakazaki after their match. And then between that and Mina, after she appeared last week, went back to Japan, where she tag teamed with, and Mariah immediately cut her off before who she could say it was. Spoiler alert, it was
Tony.
Apparently, I've been seeing some clips from that, and she was amazing.
Yeah,
I would expect nothing less, but she was amazing. Anyway, Mariah cuts off Renee and immediately starts complaining about Willow, ignoring everything about Mina, saying that Willow only gets chances so that she can immediately lose them, citing Willow losing the TBS Championship, the CMLL Women's Championship, the New Japan Strong Women's Championship, and the Owen Hart Finals, which she actually lost to Mariah herself. Mariah questions how Willow continues to get all of these opportunities despite her constant failures, calling her a shady bitch. Well, this prompts Willow to then come over and get in Mariah's face, and she's like, "No, you're the shady bitch. Who wouldn't want the AEW Women's Championship? You attacked, you get that," and they're just screaming at each other. And eventually, Mariah hit Willow first. I forgot to write the rest of this down. And then Willow just absolutely tagged her back, and the two started brawling. And security quickly came over, led by Christopher Daniels, and there was a pull apart. So, James, it looks like we're very clearly setting up for this at Wrestle Dream. I think it would be a good defense for Mariah.
I agree.
I was going to assume she wins, but that's going to be a good match. These are two very talented women.
Mariah's clearly, not a great person, character-wise, but she's not wrong. How does Willow keep getting these fucking title shots?
Maybe Stokely was right. She's just shady.
I mean, I will never, because if I call her shady, she's gonna come right back at me. That was scary.
I'm not agreeing. I'm just
but
just saying.
I'm looking forward to the match. It is gonna be a great match. Undeniably, sorry, my sinuses are killing me. Undeniably, it's gonna be a fun match. not expecting Willow to win, but you know she will deliver. You know that they call upon her because they know how proven she is and what she can do. So it's going to be a great match. I'm dreading the fact that they're already like teasing bringing Tony back. Like, not because I don't want to see Tony. I love Tony, but I just don't want a rematch yet of Tony and Mariah. It just feels like not the right time.
I don't think it's coming too soon. I think they're just trying to keep it in everyone's mind.
Yeah.
You know?
I am very interested to see what's going to happen with Mina. I think I'm more like I want to see Mina get involved again. Very weird that they brought her out for the 1 week and that was it, right? That was a weird choice. But
I do think something is coming down the pipeline though, where you're gonna have same reason they brought, or they mentioned Tony tonight, or they almost mentioned Tony. They brought Mina in just to keep her fresh in everyone's head. Yeah. And you're going to have this thing where Tony and Mina are having this great time over in Japan when it's Mariah who asked Mina to come to America and she was only there for like 5 fucking minutes.
Yeah.
So I think we're just further building this. I imagine at some point Mariah is going to turn on Mina and it's going to break my heart. But
I'm expecting it to.
Yeah, and so I think it's all building, and they just I think it's better that they tease it instead of just ignoring it completely, and then Tony just randomly showing back up, and then everyone's just like, oh, what's she been doing? Yeah. It's like, no, we've been kind of referencing like, hey, she's in Japan, go check that out, you know, and it also allows you to do a little Stardom promotion since you're partners with them. So it's all very smart, I think.
You know best. I believe in you.
All right. After this, we went back to the ring, and we saw Private Party quickly face off against the Iron Savages. And I say quickly, I mean quickly. They pinned them in like 30 seconds with a gin and juice, and that was pretty much it. We quickly go to the comments. I'm saying quickly a lot tonight, where FM is saying JD from NY is totally trashing the show and AEW. That doesn't surprise me. That's what he does.
JD from NY fucking sucks, and he's a grifter. And I have ranted about this man on this pod before to the point that it scared the rest of the pod mates because I don't get this angry. If you make a living off of finding joy in ripping something down and tearing something apart, and you hope to not like something, you're not offering anything great. I don't care what community you're in, whether it's movies or TV or sports or wrestling or whatever the heck. If you are somebody like JD from NY who finds his success in criticizing and ripping apart a product that he can't be a part of, it's not an opinion worth listening to. And FM, I apologize. If you're a fan of JD from NY, you know, go do your thing. I know sometimes he does have an interesting take, but I think he's full of shit. And I think he's very wrong about tonight's show. I thought tonight was a great show. I thought it had some great wrestling. And I thought this was a nice celebration of 5 years of AEW.
Yeah, I agree with your assessment there. I think grifter is the right word from what I've seen from him. He's just a guy who just enjoys shitting on, especially the AEW product. And, you know, we hear, like, I don't like every show in wrestling. I'm not the biggest WWE guy, which is why I don't normally do Raw or SmackDown, or I didn't even do NXT last night. I enjoy them in the short term. It's just those are very tedious shows to watch. So I don't always watch them. But I do think they're doing good stuff. But I don't come on to this show and shit on WWE just because I don't want to watch 3 hours of Raw.
Yeah.
You know, I will criticize any show, including AEW, which I hope I do enough when I think they're doing something poorly. But just to go out there and rip something for the sake of ripping it and attempting to get views is pretty lame.
And it just to bounce off last thing, because I don't want to give this guy more time than he deserves. Red is right. It's okay to critique stuff. I love AEW. You guys saw last night. I reviewed NXT, and tomorrow I'll be reviewing TNA.
Yeah, I
With
mean,
something,
I was say NXT looked pretty good. I
it
got
was.
the highlights. It looked great for their first show on the CW.
It was. And just like I critiqued certain things from AEW tonight, I critiqued some things from NXT last night, and I'm sure I'm going to critique some things from TNA tomorrow. If something is there that you don't like, it's okay to talk about that. But
talk about
do
why.
Yeah, do it
And in good
constructively. Yeah, do it in good faith. Do it constructively. Don't say this is garbage, I don't like it, this is bullshit or whatever. Say, you know what, this didn't work for me. This is what could have made it work for me, or I don't know why this didn't work for me. But we're here, like, we're called the Mark It Down podcast because we're marks. We love wrestling. We are huge marks for professional wrestling. Rev and I did 2 shows together last week. We did Grand Slam and we did House of Glory on Sunday. And we both marked the fuck out as we were watching those shows, whether it's Bryan Danielson versus Nigel McGuinness or Megan Bain versus Lena Cross.
Yep.
Lena Cross. And we enjoyed everything. There were some things that didn't really work for us, but hey, we were having fun. So we just want to have fun with you guys. And
Upset of the year you went with that women's match and not Joe Hendry. but
I stand by.
It was such a good match.
I think Megan Bain and Lena Cross was one of the best matches I've seen live this year, and one of the best matches I've seen in House of Glory ever. So I loved it. They deserve all the praise in the world. Go check us out on Insta. Matt made a nice reel highlighting that match and highlighting Megan Bain and Lena Cross. So go check that out. But and it's saying something great, and I love what it is saying here in the comments. It's saying, I enjoyed Dynamite tonight, but he didn't care for the ending. And I respect the shit out of that. You don't have to. It's a 2-hour. This was a 2.5-hour show. If you like every minute of a 2.5-hour show, that is friggin' amazing. But it's not an easy thing to accomplish.
Yeah. I didn't like the ending of the opening match. And
yeah.
Neither did you. And I think we adequately explained why, mostly just because it was whack. But it set some stuff up, but like it was just annoying.
FM, if you're still here, thank you for checking us out. I hope you're having fun with us, and we're having fun talking about stuff that we liked and being honest about some things we didn't like. And join the positivity, power of positivity. It might not be working for New Day currently, but it's still working for Rev and I.
Always does. Getting back on track here after Private Party just absolutely squashed the Iron Savages, which I didn't think was physically possible because they're so large.
When looking big, baby.
Yep.
When looking mad, Jack Daddy.
Isaiah grabs a mic and he says that they were serious when they said new year, new us at the beginning of the year. And he then says that they are actually really honestly, swear to God, going to win the AEW Tag Team Championships. In fact, they're both feeling froggy tonight, and they end up challenging the Young Bucks to have a tag title match right now. The Young Bucks come out now equipped with a couch on the Cody Vader, and Nicholas says that you can't have Dynamite's 5-year anniversary without the guys who built this company, the EVPs, the Young Bucks. Back to the comments here really quickly.
No, we'll finish what you were saying, and then we'll do the comments. But FM, I want you to know we see it, and then we're going to talk about it in a second.
Matthew then seems to accept Private Party's challenge, but instead, as they get down towards the bottom of the ramp, he says that they have limited dates and they don't want to waste one on a town like Pittsburgh.
God, that line is so blurred. There is so much reality in that fiction, and it was beautiful.
Well, it worked out in the end for Pittsburgh, but. As the Bucks go to leave, Jack Perry then blindsides Zay and Quinn, taking them down, and that allows the Bucks to quickly rush back towards the ring and join in on the beatdown. However, Private Party is saved by Kazuchika Shibata, who comes down, and the three of them are able to fight off the Elite members. Christopher Daniels then comes out and says that Private Party has been a thorn in the Young Bucks side ever since the start of Dynamite, referencing Private Party's upset of the Young Bucks during the inaugural tag team tournament. I think it was a 8-1 upset all the way back on the first episode of Dynamite. I think they actually showed that before this match. And Daniels would like to give the Private Party a chance to continue to be a thorn in their side, making a trios match with Shibata and Private Party facing off against the Elite for Rampage. So don't worry, Pittsburgh still gets to see the Bucks. James, really quick, this is cool. It set up something for Rampage. Fine. Good promo, though, from Isaiah. I thought he did a good job here.
Yeah. Zay, you never want to see anybody get injured. You never want to see anybody get injured. But we are big proponents of when an injury happens, especially in a tag team, you want to see that partner take that time to really propel themselves as much as they can. And Mark Quinn has unfortunately spent a good amount of time injured during his tenure in AEW. And Isaiah had benefited greatly from being paired with the Hardys, being paired with Mark Sterling, being paired with Ethan Page, former NXT champion Ethan Page.
I forgot he was with two of those guys.
Right? So he became such a better promo. I think he became such a better wrestler in all this time while Quinn was out hurt. And I think Quinn is also doing very well too, because there was a brief bit where Isaiah was hurt.
Yeah.
So I think both of us, everyone here at the pod has been chomping at the bit, waiting for Private Party to ascend to that level that we know they're capable of. We have been waiting. One, because we know that they're so good. Two, New York boys, we got to root for them. And three, the tag team division needs some heat. It needs some new blood going after those tag titles. And it has been a long, long time since the Private Party guys were believable contenders. I feel like we're getting there right now. You know, like if they win, it still might be a little bit of an upset, but I'm getting behind them for it. It's not going to feel like a squash match come realistically, I'd say, Wrestle Dream. So I'm very much rooting for them, and I think the promo was great from Zay. Quinn, I meant it, looking real jacked, Daddy. You're looking big, and I respect it. Good. Keep it going. So rooting for Private Party, rooting for the tag division, and kind of feel a little bad for the Iron Savages. I know that they're jobbers. I know that they are. But they seem so fun, too, and I would like to see them get pushed a little bit as well. But this segment served its purpose.
Yeah, it did. I was surprised they used the Savages instead of like a local talent, but yeah.
I think it's better. I think it's better that they beat an AEW team.
I was going to say, beating a named AEW team is definitely that quickly kind of puts them on like, all right, these guys are actually fucking here to play.
Yeah.
So it puts them on
no joking around. So I thought that was really good.
Did you want to head back to the FM's comment? Yep.
Yes, because it also acknowledges something that I don't know if we talked about or if we put a banner for. FM saying that he appreciates our takes and he says, thank you. No, thank you, FM. Really appreciate conversation. That's why we do this. He says he feels like they feel like AEW still has great potential ahead with Bobby Lashley and eventually Shane O'Mac joining. Definitely intriguing. Did you talk about the big debut? Do we have a banner for the big debut of the night with MVP?
That was actually the next segment in the show. So
nice. So let's get to that.
Yeah, we can go right to that. And it was with a backstage interview with MVP, who had an announcement to make. But when he went to make that announcement, he was interrupted by Prince Nana. Nana says that MVP was talking a lot of, I don't know what he said, but he essentially said he was talking a lot of shit last week about Swerve, and that far too many people in AEW have forgotten that Nana himself was once a wrestler, saying he'll lace up his boots right now for MVP here in Pittsburgh. MVP responds by saying that sounds a lot like a complaint, and he doesn't deal with complaints. But that guy over there deals with complaints, and the camera panned back to reveal the debut of Shelton Benjamin, now in AEW.
Yeah, baby. Good for him.
Shelton asks if Nana has any more complaints, and Nana just stays silent. So Shelton laughs at him and takes his cup of coffee. Fun fact, you don't follow him on Twitter, Prince Nana has his own coffee brand, and that's why he's always carrying around the mug in the back. MVP laughs at Nana and walks away, with Shelton trying the coffee and saying it's good, leaving Nana to stew in his anger. So, James, we have 2 members now of the Hurt Business in AEW. Obviously, MVP, we got that debut last week at Grand Slam. Now we have the debut of Shelton Benjamin. And I'm excited to see what he can do.
So I'm gonna riff for a little bit. So just give me a second. I apologize. This is something that I'm super hyped for. Shelton is, in my opinion, one of the most underrated and underappreciated talents of the last 24 years.
Yeah, and I think that's a highly widely held opinion. Excuse me, I got that backwards. Yeah. But it's still right.
I think he had so many opportunities taken away where he could have been a top guy. And it's unfortunate, in my opinion, he never reached the potential that he has. He never really unlocked it the way he should have. I think he in AEW is going to be such a great fit. He's used to this style. He's wrestled. Obviously, everybody primarily knows Shelton from his time in WWE, whether it was his first stint or his second stint. But realistically, what?
And his mom.
And his mama, Shelton's mama. But realistically, this is a guy who has spent a significant amount of time in Ring of Honor, the OG Ring of Honor. This is a guy who, I don't know if you know this, was part of Suzuki-gun with Minoru Suzuki.
I knew he was in New Japan. I didn't know he was Suzuki-gun.
Yeah, this is a guy who has experience in New Japan. So he is going to fit, in my opinion, like a glove here in AEW. And I'm so happy.
Was he in TNA at all? Or
I think he did make some appearances in TNA. I don't know how long he was there. I think maybe more than a cup of coffee, but not for a full lunch either. So happy he's there. That's first right out the gate. 2, I'm just going to say it. I hate that they're good.
And I'm trying to, is that like tea and biscuits? Like, I'm trying to figure out where that falls in the, is it 11sies? Where's that fall in the food spectrum of
it's more than lambus bread. It's more than lambus bread. But that's point number 1. Point number 2, I hate that their name is going to be the Hurt Syndicate.
Is that a rumor, or is that
I believe that's what was seen on MVP's card that he handed to Nana last week. I understand that they can't be the Hurt Business. That makes sense. It's almost definitely a trademark name. The Pain Syndicate made so much more sense than the Hurt Syndicate. Or the Pain Business would have been better because they are still in business. Either way, I'm just not digging the Hurt Syndicate, but that's fine.
Yeah, not to mention MVP used the phrase like big business earlier when he was talking about the 80s. So
exactly. So it's just me nitpicking. A name is a name. What matters is what's behind the name and who's behind the name. So,
and right now that's MVP and Shelton Benjamin.
Point 3, going to our boy in the comments, Navarro. Will Lashley be next? From your lips to God's ears, yes. Bobby Lashley, we know, is no longer with the WWE. We know that Bobby Lashley has every intention of sticking around with MVP. And my God, I am salivating, Navarro. I am salivating at the thought of Bobby Lashley versus Swerve Strickland. That match is going to fuck. So please, please, please. Last point I want to make about this, and there's not much to say about it because it's done, it's set in stone, and there's no reason to keep bringing it up. I am so sad. I am so disappointed that Cedric Alexander re-signed with WWE.
Oh, I knew he was there. I thought he was still under contract, but
no, he re-signed within like the last 2 to 3 months. He re-signed with WWE.
Fool.
And I am so disappointed. I'm happy if this is what he wants. I'm happy for him, but from a fan view, from a fan standpoint, the amount of matches I would literally go gaga over for him to have in AEW, I can't even count on 2 hands.
That's how many rematch versus Ibushi off the top of my head.
The rematch versus Ibushi, number 1, because my God, they killed it in the Cruiserweight Classic. Imagine if they have the leash off here in AEW.
That match got him signed.
Yes. Him versus Ospreay goes without saying. Him versus Kenny Omega. Wowza. Him versus, I don't think we ever had a proper Ricochet versus Cedric Alexander match.
Yeah, I can't think of one.
Cedric versus Swerve. Incredible. Cedric, so many places I would slot him in, and it would be absolutely great. And obviously, I feel like he's an integral part of the Hurt Business. But it is what it is. I wish he did sign, or I wish he did make the jump over. But if he's happy, that's all that matters. But man, it's going to feel weird. And look, I lied. I'm sorry. That isn't the last point. There's a lot of fans online who are clamoring for Powerhouse Hobbs to fill that spot.
Oh, see, now I kind of want to see him face Lashley, but
see, I want to see that match too. But realistically, him learning, him having, FM's right. MVP passed his card to Mercedes as well. I wonder if they might look to recruit Powerhouse Hobbs. There you go. I would love it. I would love it. I would love it. Those three men going for the trios titles. Oh my God.
It's a real Hurt Business right there. Those
please.
Strong ass motherfuckers.
Please. To quote Sabrina Carpenter, please, please, please.
Shout out Ryan, he was there tonight.
I know, I'm so jealous. I'm so fucking jealous, but that's a different rant. Dev saying that he's a wrestling fan. This is what makes us wrestling fans. We are so excited to be talking about this stuff. Navarro saying a little off topic. Yeah, fuck it. We've been off topic all night. Will Adam Cole go back to WWE? This is gonna sound like a joke, but I'm being 100% serious. I think with as much injured time that Adam Cole owes Tony Khan, he might legitimately be working for Tony Khan until he dies.
Yeah, I mean, God only knows how long that contract was initially, 4 years, 5 years, whatever it is. But if they add on the injury time, yeah, he's going to be there for another 6 years or from now.
I don't, if I'm Tony Khan, look, we've talked about it when WWE would do it, and we don't want to see AEW do it, even though apparently they're doing it with Ray Fenix. If you're going to add injury time, it's a little fucked up, but you have every right to. But if you're going to add injury time to somebody's contract, do not leave them sitting at home. Put them to work. Put them to work. I would say the same thing to WWE, so I'm saying it to Tony Khan here. If he's going to add injury time to Ray Fenix, and we joke, but realistically, I think Adam Cole owes him 18 months of injury time at this point.
Something like that.
Work him those 18 months. Unless they will not come to work and they refuse to come to work, don't let them stay at home. They should be working if you're going to keep them under contract for that long.
Yeah. I was just trying to do the math in my head. It's been a year since the last Grand Slam, or more now. So you have all of that time plus the concussion time, which was a while. So, yeah, it's at least 18 months, maybe more.
Great reference by FM saying, cough, cough, until Cole. Nice Deadpool Wolverine reference. It's saying the Hobbs match first, and then he joins.
I would be okay with that. Yeah,
I would be okay with that, where it's he impressed Lashley enough that he feels like he's good for business or for Syndicate, I guess.
I did like, it also saying that Syndicate's hard to spell.
That it is.
Yeah, definitely. I'm not trying to type that. That is full on autocorrect or swipe or whatever.
Navarro saying that he forgot about the injury time thing. He hates it, but he gets it. After Ray and Penta. And look, I said the same thing for a lot of WWE guys. You don't let it be known that you're jumping ship.
Yeah.
And that's what Penta would not stop talking about it. So it is what it is. But work them. Let them work if you're going to keep them on contract.
Yeah, I understand not wanting to set things up for people who are leaving.
Yeah.
Like Alistair / Malachi Black. Now, granted, he got fired, but even if you're just jobbing them out,
Yeah,
Yeah.
use them.
Yeah.
Use them.
I know I'm reading the old Wrestling Observer rewinds. Shout out Rewinder Man to Price on Square Circle. But you're seeing a lot of these guys, and you're especially during like the WCW, WWE, like Monday Night Wars, where they know they're leaving and they just job them for like 3 months and then they leave. So,
see, even that I've never been crazy about. Like I hated.
I'm not a fan, but at least they're working and they're on.
Yeah,
TV.
no, you're right. You are right.
Or they were on house shows at the time.
I hated when WWE did it to Moxley. They did it to Ambrose on the way out. That he got bitched out by Drew. He got bitched out by fucking Nia Jax. And that's before we knew he was going to AEW. We just knew that he was leaving.
Well, his contract was expiring, and everyone just knew he wasn't resigning. But, nonsense. There's also Vince being a vindictive bitch.
He would never. Navarro with the last comment for now, saying he's really hoping Kenny Omega comes back soon. Needs some order taken against the Young Bucks. Again, from your lips to God's ears. I got to be honest with you guys. I worked myself into it. I was kind of expecting Kenny to show up tonight at the end. I was kind of expecting him to come out and confront Moxley as a mirror to what happened at the end of the first Dynamite, which was Moxley coming out and attacking Kenny. I thought that would have been a nice way to bring him back. But I digress. That is just me being a mark and working myself over.
I mean, if he's not ready, I understand it. But
He's training with Coda in Japan.
Admittedly, it would have been nice to at least hear from him.
Yeah. Somebody who's so integral to AEW's past. And,
I know I'm not hearing from Cody tonight, but at least Kenny, I would have been nice to hear from.
Yeah.
I did want to get back into this Hurt Syndicate or whatever we're calling it thing quickly, because I did see a stat the other day where AEW's average age of, I don't know if it was the roster of people on TV or whatever, is above WWE's now for the first time ever. And a good part of that is I think we are seeing a lot of former WWE superstars, especially some older ones, come into AEW. You had Christian, which, he's been there for a while now, but you had Adam Copeland come in, and I know he's on the shelf, but now you got MVP, you have Shelton Benjamin, you have...
Is there a reason you keep saying it that way?
It's the Usos.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Remember they were feuding with the Hurt Business?
Yeah,
they kept saying it like that.
Yeah.
If you presumably have Lashley coming in, there's a lot of these former WWE talents who are a bit older, and I'm just curious your thoughts on the positioning of this roster now with these people coming in, because we still do have a lot of AEW originals, and we have a lot of people who have kind of bounced back and forth between both, Cole, for example, or Riley.
Yeah.
Moxley, I guess, is kind of he's been there since the beginning, but he's not necessarily an AEW guy. But there's a lot of people who are really known for being WWE guys that are now in this company, and they are older people, and are taking the slots of some of the younger people who are original AEW talent, whether it's from the beginning or they're trying to bring them up early in their careers through that system. So I'm just curious your thoughts on the way this roster has recently been constructed with the releases and from WWE and the new signings.
That is a great question. That is a great point to bring up. And
I rambled a bit there in the middle.
No. I think you made a great point, and it's something to discuss. That data that showed that AEW's roster is skewing older for the first time in its existence since it was created in comparison to WWE. I wonder where that number came from. That is true for the overall roster. But that data went a little bit deeper and it didn't get as much coverage. If you compare the main event scenes between both companies, AEW's is still younger. And the thing to consider too with that data is that includes NXT. And NXT right now is pure developmental. Those are kids in that developmental center, in that performance center.
Yeah, and Ethan Page. And Sean Spears.
You're not, oh God, ancient. So when you include all the kids that are legit coming right out of college, the numbers are a little skewed. Beyond that, though, you're a sports guy, correct? I think that's a jersey you're wearing and a
Go
ball
Irish.
cap. I'm gonna use my own real life experience right now with fantasy football. Saquon Barkley. Saquon was a gigantic prospect for the Giants. Ironic, no pun intended there. And never quite, just due to circumstances, never really reached the heights that we all knew he was capable of just because of the team that he was with and with everything. And now he is with the Eagles. And as a fantasy owner, I can tell you, gangbusters.
Yeah,
Really
he's playing
appreciate what?
He's playing well.
Really
Eagles-
appreciating all of his effort.
Eagles, but
Yeah.
his stats have been good.
His stats have been good. Should the Eagles not pick up a Saquon Barkley because he left the Giants? No. Talent is talent. It doesn't matter where you've been. It doesn't matter how long you've been there. If you're a free agent and you have something to offer the product and you've got the money for it, fucking sign them. Now, granted, don't sign them and bench them. Use them. But they should. I am a gigantic Bobby Lashley mark. So I watched Bobby in WWE. I watched Bobby in TNA. I watched Bobby in fucking Strikeforce. Like the off-brand MMA company organization.
He had some good fights.
I love Bobby Lashley. I am salivating at the thought of him coming to AEW and seeing what he can do in AEW. And I don't not want him there because he's a WWE guy. I don't not want him there because he's old. He's skewing older. Because realistically, when we last saw him less than a year ago, just maybe 5 months ago, the guy's built like a fucking brick shithouse.
Yeah,
he's a monster.
And it makes a good point in the comments. Like they may be older, but they are known brand names to general wrestling fans.
Yes. I think the key, and this is where TNA failed, and I have to bring up TNA here, because this is where this mentality comes from, that TNA brought in so many WWE people, and it didn't matter who those WWE people were. It was either main event talent or bottom of the card WWE talent. They brought them over to TNA, and they pushed them over the TNA talent. Kurt Angle, Christian Cage, Jeff Hardy, Rob Van Dam, Booker T, all of these guys, all excellent talent, all incredible talent. They superseded, they overtook AJ Styles, Christopher Daniels, Samoa Joe, Frankie Kazarian, all guys that have been putting Bobby Roode, all guys that have been putting time in and developing and should have been the next guy. But those WWE talents came in and they became world champions. Fucking Mick Foley won the TNA world title.
Yep.
And
Main Event Mafia, all those guys.
That's
Although I think Sting was good for that company.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't have a problem with Sting because Sting was, quite frankly, he was never a WWE guy either, at least at that point.
But he was still bigger and slightly older star.
But it's when you bring these guys in and you have them run roughshod over your established roster, that's where there's a problem. Bryan Danielson went 3 years in AEW before winning that AEW world title. He put over everybody.
Almost to his detriment.
Almost completely to his detriment. Unselfish son of a bitch.
How dare you be a good person?
You need these guys to come in and be part of the roster, not be the roster. So I will never have a problem with anybody from WWE coming to AEW and being prominently featured as long as they can blend in. It's why, like, you do see certain issues when you have somebody like Mercedes Moné come in and you can see so clearly the women's division is being sort of built around her right now. And it's worked because these women are getting more TV time than they ever got before. That is the blessing that comes out of it. But
I think a combination of that and the Tony Mariah storyline.
yes,
really
absolutely.
But now both, because both title pictures are, on the up and rising up, it has allowed for more spots for the women because they need credible contenders for both of these titles that everybody's paying attention to.
Yeah.
You used to be able to hide the TBS title. You can't right now.
It's true. So just to finish up on that discussion, just like sports, if somebody becomes a free agent, you don't think, wow, I don't know who would want him. He's a free agent. I think the same applies here to AEW. If there is talent on the board, take them if you can. And I'm happy with what the AEW roster is. I think it's a good blend of former WWE guys and AEW talent. Darby Allin, amazing. I think of him, I think of AEW. I think of Bryan Danielson as a journeyman who has been everywhere and succeeded everywhere.
I kind of think of Mox that same way too. Because I always feel like, oh yeah, he's CZW. I don't know if he was really Ring of Honor, but I know he was CZW.
He was TNA.
I didn't know that.
Very early on. Yeah.
Yeah, but then he was NXT, then WWE, and now AEW.
Yeah. So we've said it. It doesn't matter the letters of the company you work for. Just be good, and we're going to be rooting for you. We joked about this guy a minute ago, Ethan Page. Page, cut his teeth and really started to make a name for himself in TNA. Then he jumped over to AEW. And then he jumped over to WWE, and now he's in NXT, and he just finished being NXT champion. It's the first company to put a world title on him. Granted, it's the NXT title. I know it's their developmental world title, but he found his place. And he filled his role. And I'm happy for him. So the same thing applies to anybody who jumps over to AEW. If you make sense, you make sense.
Yeah, I think all that's fair. I just, you brought up a good point about TNA and guys taking spots from talent who probably should be pushed, talent that you've created in your own company. I think that is something a lot of people worry about. I think that's sometimes people speculate that that's what's going on backstage, that, AEW originals are either upset or nervous over the fact that former WWE talent is going to take their spot. With Barkley, just to continue that example, Philly didn't have any running backs. They let Swift go. He went to Chicago. Yep. And it was a bit of a risk to sign Barkley because he was hurt.
Yeah.
And, but money's different in the NFL, so I won't really continue that. But they had a roster spot. Does AEW have a roster slot? It's hard to say. Obviously, there's no roster limits, but there's limits on the amount of time people can be on TV. So if you're going to put the Hurt Business or whatever we're calling them on TV, that's somebody else who's not going to be there. So I think it's very important. And Tony's done a pretty decent job of this. Just have to be smart and balance, these people coming in with the people you already have. And if he's able to continue to do that the way he has, I think we'll be okay.
But I agree. And go ahead.
I was like, that's what I get for only reading the headline and not knowing that stat counted all the NXT kids.
I'm fairly certain it did, because I remember the discourse about it. I remember the conversation about it, and I remember reading about the NXT kids being a part about it. And let me ask you this: you brought up age. If age was a factor, Damian Priest wouldn't be a champion. He wouldn't have been a champion. Finn Balor shouldn't be anywhere near the main event. AJ Styles should never have been anywhere near the main event.
Dude, AJ numbered a number in wrestling, but
I tell that to Vince McMahon and Pat Patterson. But that felt dirty. That felt wrong.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah,
it did.
I watched the Vince doc. I'm not done with it, but I
think I got 3 episodes in. I think they just did the screw job. I don't know if that was 2 or 3 episodes in. And then I tried to go back into Netflix again last night, and I'm out of my home again.
God,
so
Netflix sucks. But
literally the day after I was watching, one day I was good, next day I'm out of my home.
Gotta love it.
Fucking ridiculous.
But yeah, I love wrestling. I love wrestling.
All right, I'm going to give you Noah this bit here. He said that Spike Dudley was the one who attacked Taz in the parking lot. He's going to speak it into existence.
This is what I will say.
I haven't
love
seen
Spike
it
Dudley.
anywhere else.
I love and adore Spike Dudley. I always have. I would love it, not just for him, but if this somehow led to the Dudley Boys coming to AEW. Because one, the Dudley Boys are awesome, and two, I would love to see Bully Ray eat so much crow coming to AEW after having spoken so much shit about AEW for so long. I don't know if that's... I don't know. I don't know what contracts they have. I think they have a WWE Legends deal, but I know RVD has a WWE Legends deal, and he still shows up in AEW from time to time.
Yeah.
All right,
So,
good.
oh, I was going to can Devon still wrestle? I thought he was done.
So here's the thing. He probably shouldn't be wrestling on a regular basis. But well after the heart attack, well after everything that happened, I saw his last match, or at the very least, I saw his last televised match. It was at Impact 1000, which was September of last year.
Yeah, I remember that.
So he can still wrestle. Like, I mean, especially if it's a tag match, he probably shouldn't be grinding week in, week out. But if they wanted to bring him in to do a table spot or to do a 3D, I think he'll be fine.
Word. All right, to continue in the comments, Navarro, as we brought up the Finn stock, it was everything we basically knew already with some extra to each story, which is what I think people have been saying. If you're a wrestling fan, you pretty much knew all this.
Yeah.
Like, I was yelling at the TV, like, are we getting to this? Are we going to do this? We better do this. And they did most of it. But people who don't know this stuff, like my aunt and uncle are watching it, and they're like, there's some fucked up shit in here. And I'm like, yeah, and they're only scratching the surface.
Yeah.
And Navarro following up with, I hate whenever we hear about the screw job, they never bring up Brett's point that he wanted to drop the title the next night on Raw.
Yeah.
That's true.
So
watch Wrestling with Shadows.
2 points. One for Navarro's first comment. This really did feel just like a WWE documentary. It felt super sanitized. Like, it didn't feel like a Vince McMahon expose. It just felt like what it was. And then to your point about the screw job and him wanting to drop it the next night, look, I'm never going to defend Vince McMahon, who is Vince McMahon. The only thing I will say is that Vince was terrified of
the Medusa thing,
the Medusa effect. If Medusa never did what she did, I don't know that Vince would have such a visceral reaction to making it happen the way he did. I also fully adore that Triple H has no shame in saying nowadays it was his idea. Like, who the fuck knows? But
Cornette also tries to take a lot of credit for it because he's like, I did it once down and whatever, or like he was like, so this territory did it to whomever, and then also I didn't know in the doc though they had already screwed the women's champion out of it once. So.
Yeah, Wendy Richter with
Wendy Richter.
Yeah, and do you know who the woman under the mask was?
No.
Fabulous Moolah.
Fuck that bitch.
Right? It makes it worse.
Oh,
it makes it so much worse.
Yeah. Shout out to Tony Storm continually call out Wendy Richter though.
Let it happen.
But yeah, I think Vince, I don't want to spend too much time on this because we spent a lot of time on the other discussion, but Vince backed himself into a corner because he gave Brett like reasonable creative control. And it was reasonable for Brett to be like, I don't want to lose to Shawn in Canada.
Yeah.
But Vince had a panic attack and that's what happened. So FM saying that Cornette, Russo, Bischoff, and JD are unbearable when it comes to their takes on AEW. And I mean, those are also dudes who are just not, besides JD, we talked about him. Cornette, Russo, and Bischoff, they've been grifting off of hating AEW as well. So Cornette is just backwards as hell. Russo's a moron, and Bischoff's just bitter because AEW hasn't really brought him in lately.
Of all of them, the only person I'll even give a modicum of respect for is Cornette. Because one, he's consistent. He does not like it. He has not liked it even before AEW was AEW. And if he was going to shit on it, he's at least consistent in shitting on it. And he's also said he doesn't dislike someone like Kenny Omega. It just he's fully admitted he knows he gets views when he goes negative. Yeah. So if you're honest about what you are, be honest. That's fine. I at least understand what you are. When you're someone like Bischoff who only hated on AEW when they didn't give him a job, fuck him. And Vince Russo,
problem, he's insane and an idiot.
Yeah, like Jesus,
bro. But no, Cornette's problem is he can be racist sometimes. So fuck him too.
To go to Navarro saying that he likes Bully and he says his takes aren't bad. I will admit, I think Bully does have some good takes from here, here and there. My problem with Bully is his hypocrisy because he refuses to call out WWE on any of their mistakes. Stuff that they've done the same thing. Like I've seen him criticize AEW for doing something that WWE would do or has done or did later and doesn't offer that same criticism. And you know why? He has a WWE Legends deal. That's why he doesn't criticize them. It's the same issue I have with Booker T. They are company men who will blindly say whatever it is pro for their company. And good for you. Loyalty is a good thing. It's something to be admired. But when you become a grifter out of loyalty, it's when I start to have an issue here and there.
Yeah. And you know what? Everyone's trying to make money, not just Cornette.
Exactly.
Even we are, yeah.
We got $30 in the bank, baby, and we're doing it being positive as hell.
All right, let's get this train back on the tracks here and head to our final segment, which saw the main event match between Bryan Danielson and Kazuchika Okada in a title versus title match, a very convoluted title versus title match, but a title versus title match nonetheless. This was the third match of the Danielson-Okada trilogy, and it came with this very interesting stipulation where Okada's Continental Championship would only be on the line for the first 20 minutes of the match. Thereby, it was still being contested under Continental rules, and therefore no one could also be at ringside during that. And after the 20 minutes, Danielson could no longer win the Continental Championship. However, Okada could still win Bryan's AEW World Championship. And that clearly didn't telegraph anything at all. And actually, it kind of really didn't. But as we hit the 19-minute mark, Bryan was able to finally get in a label lock, which he then transitioned into, I think it was basically a Rings of Saturn, but he was using his legs.
So it was reminiscent of what happened in their first match when Bryan's arm broke.
Right.
And that's how he made Okada tap out, that he used his leg instead of his broken arm. So it was reminiscent of that. Yeah.
Yes. He couldn't get the label lock in properly. I forgot about that. Good point. I also think at some point, too, in the match, Okada elbow dropped Bryan on the arm again. So,
yeah.
Good callbacks by both men then. Anyway, despite this maneuver, Okada was able to get to the bottom rope for the break, and then the two men got up. Bryan ducked the lariat, hit the ropes, and landed the Psycho knee, but Okada rolled out of the ring, and the times ticked over 20 minutes, and that took the Continental Championship out of play. As we head back into the chat with Navarro really quick, I'll be real, I didn't like that stipulation. I don't think anyone really did. We knew that Danielson was going to win either way, but obviously not double title. Why bother? Nope. Honestly, they could have just made this where it was only Bryan's putting up his title, and it would have been a lot easier.
I think it would have been better. Because it feels now like Bryan failed in a certain way.
Yeah.
And I don't like that.
And you know what, your joke was funny. I just didn't want to say it on air. And honestly, too, I think it was a small way to give Okada a little bit of a win, considering the fact that, spoiler alert, Bryan was going to win and probably end up finishing this series with the 2-1 advantage in their all-time matchups.
Yeah. But
you could say but Okada didn't lose his title in that third match. So it does give him a little something. It did add for this also, I think, this cool, segment of the match here where they got to the 19 and then 20-minute mark.
Yeah.
So I did kind of enjoy that part. It told a good story in the ring, but it was, again, very telegraphed. We all knew Bryan wasn't winning that title.
Yeah.
So it was, it was a hat on a hat.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And it was hat on a hat for false drama.
Yeah, exactly. Although there was some good, I thought there was a little bit of good drama with it, with that spot where he did put in that goofed up Rings of Saturn, and then he hit the recycled knee and would have had the win had Okada not rolled out of the ring. However, despite the fact Okada was out there, Bryan was undeterred, and he hit the springboard, which I love he brought back to the outside, taking Okada out. However, when Bryan went to follow it up, Okada caught him, and he hit him with a tombstone on a chair that Okada had thrown to the side when they were brawling on the outside earlier, which Bryce Remsburg was really upset about, but did not DQ Okada because, it was just in the realm of outside there. So that hurt.
It didn't make any fucking sense. But we'll just accept it.
No, I do like, it was one of those things like, oh, okay, shit, that was just there, so I can't really DQ you. You didn't use it. It was it's like when you put somebody through the announce table. You just used the table, but you didn't set it up. So
I don't like it, but I'll allow it.
Bryce Remsburg, there are no rules in title matches.
Right.
A little bit later in the match, after kicking Okada's head in, Bryan went into the corner for the yes chant and went for the Busaiku knee again. But Okada countered and hit a Rainmaker that he was unable to capitalize because Bryan just kicked his fucking head in. The two men then eventually get back up and get into a striking exchange, which eventually leads to Okada hitting a German suplex where Bryan was able to land on his feet. Bryan attempted another Busaiku knee, but Okada blocked it. However, Bryan's momentum sent Okada into the corner, and Okada came out of the corner with the Busaiku knee of his own that Bryan kicked out of. Okada then got Bryan up, went for the Rainmaker. Bryan blocked it, and then hit a Rainmaker of his own, and Okada was able to kick out of that. Great sequence.
Did you hear that hit when he
Bryan
hit that?
Nailed him.
God. Beautiful.
Yeah,
beautiful.
He laid that in thick. Okada was then able to get up. There was a little more fighting between, but then Okada got the best of Bryan and was able to hit a neck breaker, which looked nasty, onto Bryan, and then he was laying in short arm lariats to Bryan as we then eventually start to see members of the not BCC filter into the crowd. It was mainly just Pac and Claudio they might have showed Marina. If they did, it was very brief. Okada then refocused and went for the Rainmaker. There's so many notes here and it's so far. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, you're good.
He eventually refocused after he was distracted by these not BCC members coming into the crowd. And he went for the Rainmaker, but Bryan was able to counter that into a backside and he was able to keep Okada down for the 3 count and retain his title. After the match, Okada was very pissed at everybody involved, so he attacked Bryan and hit him with a Rainmaker before chirping Pac and Claudio and eventually leaving. Pac and Claudio then got into the ring with Shafir and held Bryan up as he started to come to. And Moxley appeared and headed into the ring with a microphone. Moxley said that this isn't about him or Bryan. He needs this title because he's going to do what nobody else has the balls to do in order to save this company. And if it was about Bryan, Mox says he would have put Bryan out of his misery a long time ago. I think he also called him a blueberry picker at one point in the beginning. And I didn't write it down, but we mentioned it earlier. He did make reference to perhaps somebody else in the background, kind of more calling the shots here.
Well, commentary did. Commentary definitely did.
Yeah. I wasn't sure if it was something I missed in my notes or I know commentary brought it up, but it was weird that commentary brought it up. But
I agree because you didn't miss anything.
Yeah.
I didn't feel that Mox had alluded to anything in this promo about there being somebody else.
Nor has he ever.
No, see, I do think he did once.
Oh, maybe.
When he had that initial promo where he was in the ring alone with Shivani, and then he goes to Shivani and he says, "This isn't your company anymore." He kind of alluded that there was someone coming in and someone who was behind everything. I don't think there's been any real allusion to that since. But in that promo, I understood the vibe of, oh shit, he's somebody's emissary. He's somebody's harbinger of pain. And again, it could be Shane.
I know it's one that makes the most excuse me, the one that makes the most sense.
I've seen some people say Tony Khan. And I think you could do it. I just don't want to see it.
See, it's weird because like it only works if Tony's trying to fight the Bucks. Like they're the ones running the company as EVPs. Like not Darby. Like Darby doesn't make any sense. And I know Brian Mox just kind of really needed Darby to just give up the title shot because he thinks he needs the title to do whatever it is he has to do here. But like I don't know. Like the Darby, maybe I'm just missing. It's just Darby was just a means to an end to get the title shot.
I think that's what it is too. I think it's very like if this is if it's Tony, I think the idea behind it is very authority Randy Orton, where they felt that Randy was what's best for business, and Tony feels like Moxley is what's best for business. And to go against your thing with the Bucks, I think it has less to do with just the Bucks and more the concept of one of the biggest criticisms that fans love to lob at AEW is that the lunatics are running the asylum and Tony doesn't know how to book or Tony doesn't know how to say no. He's trying to be everybody's friend. So if Tony finally has had enough, and he knows that his most reliable soldier has always been Moxley, which realistically, he has been one of his most reliable guns, his most reliable tools. Now he just decides this is it. And I could see why he would I could see why the character of Tony Khan would resent Bryan Danielson. The idea being, you're leaving me. You were one of the guys that I depended on, and you're leaving me.
He is one of the most reliable soldiers, and maybe Tony doesn't want to take the risks that somebody who isn't one of those guys wins the title off of Bryan.
Exactly. I think the story's there. Just like I think the story's there if it's Shane. Just like I think there are some good possibilities to come out of this. That said, I don't think we're really going to see much story progression until Wrestle Dream itself or the Dynamite after Wrestle Dream.
Yeah. The Coney thing feels weird to me too, just because he's always said he doesn't want to be an on-screen guy. He doesn't like at best his character is just I make matches, you know, and you don't really see him too much outside of the rare occasional thing where like Jack Perry kicks the shit out of him or the Bucks are laughing with him backstage, at least of late. So I'd be a little surprised if Tony got this involved in a story just because of what he's always said for so many years. But hey, people change their minds, you know, especially if they think it's going to, you know, make them money. So could be Tony, could be Shane, could be nobody. It could just be that everyone's so confused by what the hell Mox is saying because he hasn't really given us a mission plan yet that, you know, it's just him. So it all remains to be seen. Anyway, after Mox is done giving his soliloquy, he tosses away the mic and he looks poised to attack Bryan when Wheeler Yuta comes running down from the back with a fucking hammer in his hand. He chases off all the members of the faux BCC and everybody with it spiked up. You know, just pushing this. Anyway, yes, Wheeler chases off every member of the faux CCC out of the ring, and then Moxley, who was like, me, what are you attacking me for, jumps back into the ring and he doesn't go face to face with Yuta, but he squares off on him a little bit, and Yuta starts screaming at him, basically challenging Moxley to come at him because he doesn't want to attack Mox with the hammer, but he wants a reason to attack Mox with the hammer. However, Mox won't give it to him, and in all this time, Bryan's able to recover, and he attacks Moxley, and the brawl is on. Claudio goes right after Wheeler. It wasn't really sure if Claudio was attacking Wheeler or just trying to get the hammer out of his hand and hold him back. But whatever it was, Wheeler and Bryan are eventually able to clear the ring of these four miscreants, and Wheeler grabs a mic, saying that he's tired of Claudio treating him like a child, that he's a grown man who can make his own decisions. And to prove that, he challenges Claudio and Pac to face him and Bryan next week on Title Tuesday. Fun fact, Dynamite's on Tuesday next week.
Going head-to-head against NXT once again.
Yep. I don't really know why. I don't know what Wednesday is. hockey? No, that's on TNT.
Yeah, I don't know. Playoffs?
Oh yeah, MLB playoffs are on TBS next week. That's why.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because AL's on. No, I don't know. It doesn't matter. It's the playoffs. Stuff. Playoffs. Anyway, Bryan gets the mic and he echoes the challenge and then is quickly made official by Tony Khan as we head off the air at 10:30 p.m., which I do believe makes this the longest Dynamite ever. 2.5 long-ass hours. So, James, I don't know what you want to go into first here, whether it is the match itself or the post-match stuff. I think as for the match, probably the worst of the three.
Yeah.
Those first two were amazing. I actually didn't see the second one, but I've heard it's better than the first one, which is fucking saying something because that first one was great, even with Bryan breaking his arm. So, and I don't know, while I enjoyed the little bit with the stipulation in the middle, I don't know if that had an impact on it. Maybe it was just because it was Dynamite, but I mean, they gave them the time.
Yeah.
So, and maybe it was just the end. I mean, Bryan went with a distraction backslide, and it just doesn't feel like a good end to this trilogy.
I agree.
While it had some great moments, that exchange of the other guy's finishers was where they countered and hit the other guy's finisher was unbelievable. I don't know. I wanted something more out of this match. We know these guys can do better. And if this is their last time wrestling, which there's a decent chance it is, I think it kind of fell flat at the end for me.
I'd agree. So, first of all, the stipulation was just silly. I understand the idea behind it. Can Bryan win the belt? And these are the rules of that belt. That those matches only go 20 minutes for the Continental title. I wasn't for it because Bryan was challenging Okada to settle a score. They were 1-1, and Bryan is the champion. He wants to prove he is the champion, and he wanted to take Okada out. I don't think the Continental title ever needed to be on the line.
No, they just did it to make it more grandiose for the 5th anniversary. But
yes.
Like I said, I don't know.
2, I think it's silly that the heels decided to come out after the 20 minutes because of the rules of the Continental title, that you're not supposed to get involved in a match in the Continental for the Continental title. You're heels. Why do you give a shit about the rules?
I think if you break those rules, you get fired. I think there's something in there like that. Like if you break the Continental rules, you can get suspended or fired.
And I've talked about how I think that's fucking stupid. But regardless,
at least it makes a little bit more sense.
But if that's the case, if you're that concerned about interference in matches, why don't you just make that a rule for all of your? Regardless, I'm getting worked up.
Because then you can't write wrestling shows.
I'm getting hot.
These are things you don't have to worry about because wrestling isn't real.
Hey. I thought the match itself, I thought there were some great spots in this. Like I said, I thought Okada hitting the Busaiku knee was great. I thought Bryan hitting the Rainmaker was a thing of beauty. Just an absolute thing of beauty. I love the callbacks to their initial matchups with Bryan using that modified label lock, modified Rings of Saturn, and Okada dropping Bryan on the arm that he broke the first time. I thought these were all great bits. I completely agree with you. I hated the finish. The idea of Bryan beating Okada with a backslide. This is Okada's first pin loss in AEW. Do you recognize that?
Damn. No, I did not.
Yeah. This is the first time Okada's been pinned in AEW.
It was a fucking backslide.
Granted, it's Bryan Danielson. Bryan Danielson, Mr. Small Package himself. Mr. Paul Smackage himself.
I thought that was Mox, Mr. Small Package.
No, Bryan was first.
Oh.
Bryan was first.
Mox did cut that great promo
about
the eager bulls and stuff with the small package once. Well, still one of my favorites.
No, it was beautiful. I knew exactly the promo. It was a backstage promo, right?
Yep.
Yep. Incredible. If anyone's going to do it, it should be Bryan. But it feels like a weak finish to this epic trilogy. And what was the point for Claudio and Pat? Did they want to make sure Bryan won because they wanted Bryan to be the one to go against Moxley? Because Okada was pissed. Yeah. Okada was pissed. He flipped them off on the way out.
I mean, no love lost between the BCC and the Elite either. Yeah. But at the same time, it's like, are we just confirming that Bryan's going to be the guy to end up, losing to Moxley so we can run him out of the company? Like, is that what we're trying to go for here? Although at the same time, Excalibur was saying they were out here to distract everybody and just, try to get up, rustle everybody's jimmies, as you would say.
Thank you. I feel seen. I feel heard. The finish didn't work for me. And I think it took a solid, strong match and muddied it up. I don't think it was an amazing match. Like, even before the finish, I thought it was the weakest of the three. And I will say, a weak match between Bryan and Okada is still going to be better than most matches.
Oh, yeah. It was still like 4, but it's just...
But
the other 2 were 6s.
Exactly. So I was a little let down by the finish. The match itself was fine. The after-match stuff, I thought it was hilarious that Claudio and Pac are holding him down, and Shafir just starts choking him. Like, he's just wrenching that fucking headlock on him, that chokehold on him, and it's like, Mox is talking to him. You don't want him to pass out. So I thought that was hilarious. Yuta is very intriguing to me. You talked about the match that was made for next week, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Glad you were paying attention.
As you said, that was a lot of notes.
The whole screen's worth, and then some.
I have a bad feeling Yuta is going to turn on Bryan.
Oh yeah,
and I'm very conflicted because it makes a lot of sense for Yuta, and it'll do good for the character, I think. I don't want Bryan's career to end because of fucking interference.
Yeah, it would be annoying. I could see something happening where it looks like it's going to end because of interference, and then people come down to help him, and then we get a clean finish.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Kind of like with the Hangman tease with Swerve, where Hangman came out and it looked like he was going to fuck Bryan over, and then he just dragged him to the back, and it was like, okay, we got it, but it didn't actually impact the end of the match. So I could see something like that, and honestly, I would be okay with that. Slight overbooking, but don't let it actually just make it a false finish.
Yeah, I think they've really booked themselves into an interesting predicament here at Wrestle Dream between Bryan and Mox. Mox cannot afford to lose at all. Right. It will derail this story horribly, I think. Granted, you could come up with something, I'm sure, but I think a loss will really derail him. And I guess maybe it's just me. I'm just not ready for Bryan to be done.
Yeah, we talked about this on Sunday when we were at the House of Glory show. We had this exact conversation. Yeah. Or maybe it might have been actually a Grand Slam or both. But either way, you're right. Moxley cannot lose. He's come back with this, reformed faction and this new sense of purpose, whatever it may be. And if you have him go out there, immediately get a title shot, and then lose, it completely kills whatever he's attempting to do. But at the same time, we really going to end Bryan's title run this quickly?
Yeah.
I know he's had some good, defenses, but he just fucking got the title. Unless he really doesn't want to do it anymore or really can't do it anymore. We were thinking end of the year.
It's so weird
end it in a month.
It would make sense for him to call it a day in Washington.
Right.
It makes sense for him to call it a day in Tacoma. And the thing is, I had told myself, and I stand by it, as long as Bryan won the title, it didn't matter if the reign was a day, a week, a month, whatever. I was mentally prepared that he was going to drop it at All Out. Not to Perry. That was before Perry became the number one contender. But, I was... he's going to win it and lose it. Pay-per-view to pay-per-view. That's it. 2 weeks. And they can say he's the world champion.
Yeah, we were thinking Swerve, Darby, Bryan, triple threat.
But the moment he retained at All Out, I'm like, all right, this is a title run. And if this is a title run, I don't want to see him have... This is his second defense, right? Maybe third. I think maybe... No. Well, Nigel wasn't a world title match.
No, but he had that match.
Yeah. So I don't want to see him just have 2 defenses and then he loses it at Wrestle Dream.
Yeah, so he's had 3 matches since he's won the title, or at least 3 singles matches since he's won the title.
Yeah.
And then his 4th one, presumably, unless he has more between now and Wrestle Dream.
There's only a week.
Oh, yeah, it's true. So, yeah, he's not gonna do it next week. So I doubt he's gonna fight on Dynamite the week after. So yeah, he's done. It makes no sense. Look, I'm totally cool with the idea of Moxley being the one who ends his career if this storyline is going to go somewhere and make sense. I know you don't love that idea. You are tired of the fact that Moxley always beats him, but that's why I added the caveat: if the storyline is going somewhere and is going to make sense, doing it now again, unless Bryan literally cannot go anymore or just literally doesn't want to, makes no sense to me. I understand it's Washington. I understand it's its own state, but I feel like you just booked yourself into 2 kind of shitty options here.
Yep.
So, at least in my opinion, because I don't want to see Bryan leave. I don't want to see Bryan leave like in this amount of time.
Yeah.
In what I thought was going to be like one real great last title run. And again, a month just doesn't sit right with me. So, my prediction is going to be Moxley wins, because otherwise he's DO, and him and whatever this is DOA. And what that means the end of Bryan. And I don't want to pick that either, but it's,
I think the key to making this work in either direction is going to be Yuta. And if Yuta costs Moxley, it's a little more acceptable. It's a little more acceptable if Yuta's the reason Mox loses. Again, I'm not thrilled at the aspect of Bryan losing because of Yuta, but at least it'll give me a reason to fucking hate Yuta. If they want Yuta to be like the Jack Perry of the Blackpool Combat Club, that's the way to do it.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, it would solidify him as a little shit.
Yeah. Let's go to the comments real quick.
Yeah, we got quite a few.
First, Navarro saying he just wants AEW and WWE to trim their rosters, and we could see a lot of everyone feel like there are so many unused talents that could have a big chance. My thing with that is always this: if I am one of those wrestlers, AEW or WWE, would I rather be getting a paycheck every week but not being used, or would I rather be out in the wild trying to make a paycheck on the indies? I think it's easier to make a paycheck on the indies today than it ever was in the past. But I don't know. There are people who I know are just happy to have job security. So I don't always know how I feel about trimming the fat.
Yeah, I agree. The rosters are a bit bloated. And I think AEW's probably especially. But yeah, I'd rather see people make money.
Yeah.
Give them that guaranteed paycheck. Does it kind of suck that they're just kind of sitting and catering all the time? Yeah, probably. And I'm sure quite a few of them would rather be doing something. But at least a lot of those AEW people can go work on the indies and are getting a good paycheck.
Exactly.
As opposed to WWE, you're locked into that.
Yeah.
And all you get is catering. So. But I understand the sentiment.
It's saying that they're sure they know that they'll forget about Tuesday.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably. I'm gonna need
depending on what happens tomorrow. I might not be available Tuesday. We'll see. I don't want to jinx it.
You're supposed to go to the game if you have
Yeah, that would be play schedule.
Yeah. Navarro saying he feels that AEW does a good job no matter the style of match, singles, tags, trios. That to me, that has always been what AEW's selling point was. It's
where the best wrestle.
It's where the best wrestle, and they were always trying to highlight different styles of matchups, as opposed to WWE, where their focus is more singles than anything.
Yeah, well, that, and also too, I think AEW's selling point was always work rate.
Yeah,
they want to put on those big, flashy, indie style matches, as opposed to WWE has its own style and is a little bit safer and a little bit slower, but it can lead to more storytelling out of the ring, which I think WWE does tend to excel at a bit more, but that is their main focus. A lot of AEW's storytelling is done in the ring itself.
Yes.
We do have our promos, we do have our backstage segments, but it's mostly in-ring storytelling, both throughout the match in a self-contained thing, and then furthering a storyline within the match itself, whether it's somebody interfering or the rare DQ as we saw tonight, or a win or a loss, or even a post-match tag.
Yeah. Navarro saying WWE feels like it cares more of faction takeovers and singles wrestling. Want more tag meeting out of them, or tag teaming out of them. I've been long saying Vince always hated tag team wrestling. He never really respected it. And
he's been trying to recreate Shawn Michaels ever since Jannetty dove through that window.
And
will you stop?
Oh, miss you, Monsoon. Miss you, Heenan. Triple H also does not really like tag team wrestling. Like, he's better about it. He's definitely better about it. Like, or at least he was with NXT.
Yeah,
but, like
the revival and DIY. Like, you had to.
Yeah. The tag titles have not been defended on premium live event since Mania. And that's disgusting. That is absolutely disgusting. I do
like those have become his, hey, we're going to give you a title match, but it's the tag title ones, like on TV.
Yeah.
Like, that's what he uses them for now. You don't see the the IC title just got defended and Jey Uso just won.
Changed. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's mostly the tag titles.
Yeah. It's saying no hammer until 20 minutes. Yep. Doesn't make any sense to me.
That was the rule.
It's saying he kind of wanted Yuta to attack Bryan tonight. Give it, everybody wants a piece before he heads out. I think it's coming.
I honestly thought that either he was going to attack Bryan and join the non-ECC, or he was just going to attack everybody.
Yeah.
Be like, I'm fucking done with all of you. Leave me the hell alone.
There is the extra little problem of the fact that he's still the trios champs with Claudio and with Pac. So that's going to be something that needs to resolve itself sooner than later.
I mean, Christopher Daniels has stripped people for less. Actually, it wasn't him; it was Tony. Daniels didn't want to strip.
I still fucking hated it. It's saying, what are the chances Bryan runs one of Tony's shows? Seems like Tony would trust him to do so. So first and foremost, yes. Tony Khan has been on. Yes, the answer is Rev nailed it. Yes. Tony Khan has gone on record as saying that he spoke to his father, Shad Khan, and said, if something happens to Tony, if he gets hit by a bus, if something happens,
the Young Bucks pile drive him into the mat and break his neck.
Have Bryan is the first person to call to run Dynamite or to run AEW in terms of maintaining order. I think he has what?
I was trying to think of the guy. Vince had a guy for that when they thought he was going to go to jail with the steroid trial, and I can't remember his name. It's going to drive me up the wall.
Fuck, I know who you're thinking about too, but I can't think of the name either. He has an incredible amount of trust, an incredible amount of respect for Bryan Danielson. After Dynamite ended tonight, I haven't been able to watch it, but I know it exists. Tony came out and got on the mic and honored Bryan to the crowd, and Bryan cut a little bit of a promo too. There is an immense amount of respect between Tony Khan and Bryan Danielson. And beyond that, supposedly Bryan is already sort of helping put the shows together with Tony. Now, it's a matter of how much does Bryan want to do after he retires. It's a matter of how much does Bryan want to take on. His whole thing is, he still loves wrestling. He still feels like he can wrestle. He promised his daughter he's going to be home more. And if you're running a show, you're going to be there every week. And if you're there every week, you might as well be wrestling every week. So I don't know what Bryan's going to be comfortable with, but I would love an AEW television show headed by Bryan Danielson. Time will tell. Maybe when Birdie hits 18 and Bryan feels like he could go back to work.
I think it might have been Jerry Jarrett. It might have been Jeff's dad.
What a weird choice. I mean, not that Jerry doesn't have experience, but I would not have picked his name out of the top 5.
I could be wrong. I'm still looking. I just did that very, very quickly. It was something I have to probably specifically rule. But I think he was also running USWA at the time. Lawler's promotion.
Yeah.
For helping run it. So I think that was why he was just like, oh, yeah, this guy can book. I have to look deeper into it. But yeah, Bryan, the nice thing too is Bryan, even if he is at home, we do this. We're both at home. You could easily call in, whether it's on an unnamed video calling platform or just pick up the phone. Bryan could still definitely help, and there's no way in hell that Tony Khan isn't going to bounce stuff off of Bryan all the time.
Yeah,
So I think Bryan, even after he retires full time, will still be involved. He's just not going to be on the road a lot. He'll probably even show up every once in a while too. If they're running West Coast shows, I wouldn't be surprised if he got the puddle jumper.
Bryan's made it very clear. His retirement is not, he's never wrestling again. It's just he's not going to be a full-time performer. He's gone on record saying that he's going to wrestle a handful of matches every year.
Yeah, he'll do some of the bigger shows, probably just straight up dream matches. It's going to be very Inoki-like. Can you tell I'm reading the rewinds?
Yeah, I was going to say.
But he's just going to do, the occasional big one. Or it's going to be, like John Cena the last few years. Granted, Cena's been busy with movies, and Bryan's just going to be at home with his kids, which is probably going to be a lot nicer for him. But it's probably going to be a very similar schedule. He'll show up, huge pop, build for a huge match, have the match, probably lose because it's Bryan, and go home again. And it'll be good, and we'll all enjoy it. But he's definitely, I think, always going to be involved backstage at AEW. And I wouldn't be surprised if at some point we saw him appear in WWE at some point not in a wrestling capacity, but I think, when he's officially done wrestling.
He's not on record saying he has no desire to go into the WWE Hall of Fame.
Oh, okay. I still think he does, but
I was going to say, I still think he does. But if, for some reason they never gave him the call, I think he's totally okay with that.
Yeah. I know. Honestly, I'm not surprised. I can totally see him just being like, yeah, it doesn't really do it for me. But, if they call me, I'll do it because I know the fans will want to see it.
Exactly. Verbatim. Not what he said, but what I imagine he would say verbatim.
Yeah. Yeah, he's that type of dude. And that's why we love him. But we have gone longer than the 2.5 hour Dynamite. So let's start wrapping things up here a little bit. We did have that long discussion in the middle. And I haven't been on TV, radio, whatever we're on, in a while.
Missed you, buddy. I got Nick M back before I got you back.
I know, that was pretty funny. I was like, what? Nick M? Really? Upset of the year. And then I might be gone next week. So we'll see again. But, James, what do we think of the fifth year anniversary of Dynamite? I thought it was kind of just another episode of Dynamite. We got a lot of the old big moments kind of spliced throughout the show, which I thought was pretty cool, although I feel like I kind of missed a few. But
I love that they honored Brody Lee.
Yeah, that was great. And they had to do it, obviously. But we had the opening match. It was exciting, but it didn't really hit the way I wanted it to. The ending match, same thing. It was exciting, had some big spots. Didn't hit the way I wanted it to. Britt was there, which was,
random.
I think it made sense. It was one of those people you're like, oh, yeah, Britt, because, she was one of the first people. And it just, I don't know, man. Like, Hangman Juice was fine. It just, nothing really jumped out in a crazy way to me in this show, which is something I expect to happen on these anniversary shows for AEW. They always tend to pull out all the stops, and while the card looked good, it didn't really hit the way I thought it was going to.
I agree to a point. I agree to a point. I think the reality is, one, we had a huge Dynamite last week in Grand Slam. It's Tony said it. It's the biggest Dynamite of the year every year. We're coming off of a string of excellent pay-per-views with All In and All Out. And I think we did get good matches tonight. I just think it's very clear these matches happened on the basis of it being the 5-year anniversary and not because it made sense to have them. And I think Bryan and Okada is, again, on their worst day, it's still going to be better than some people's best matches of their career. And I think Ospreay and Ricochet kind of just scratched the surface of what we know they're capable of. And the Hangman Juice stuff was fun, but really the only thing that matters coming out of it is Jay White's back.
Yep. I think those are probably the two of the three biggest notes is White's back, Shelton Benjamin debuted,
Yes.
and Bryan has one up on Okada.
Yeah.
Off a backslide.
A very noteworthy Dynamite. Because it was a very noteworthy Dynamite. But I do agree to a point it didn't hit the way it should have. But I enjoyed watching Dynamite though. I didn't come out of Dynamite being like, nothing happened. I didn't come out of Dynamite saying, that sucked. It's just, I think with what we were presented, we know it was capable of being better.
Yeah, I think that's my problem. I had higher expectations for two of these matches, at least the bookend matches. Yeah. I was expecting... I mean, we did get two surprises. We got White and Benjamin. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe I was expecting somebody else, but
I was fully expecting Kenny. I was fully expecting Kenny to come
It would have been nice to see him. Even if it was just a, hey, guys, hey, guys. No. Hello, everybody. Kenny Omega here. Like, it would have been nice to see him.
Damn it, yeah.
So that was a little disappointing as well. So, I just... Not a bad show, and by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, just not at all.
Something I think we thought could have been better. And you did make a good point about it coming off a very grandiose show the week before, but I wanted more out of the two big matches, and I just didn't get it.
Weird to still not have MJF back, right?
Yeah, another person. I mean, he did appear on the show in terms of like we got the highlight of him.
Yeah,
a couple highlights of him actually.
Yeah.
And we did get a couple of highlights of Kenny. We had the box putting him through the glass table.
And those are nice, but I saw them already. I want new content.
Yeah, I wanted to hear from Kenny. It would have been probably nice to hear from MJF, even if he came in on video and just, talk shit to us. But
yeah.
Oh well.
Oh well.
All right. So on that slightly underwhelming note, I would like to thank everybody so much for watching us here at the Market Down Podcast.
Oh, no. We got to talk. I don't know if we did. The TV deal.
Oh, shit. You are totally right. AEW got a TV deal, guys.
Hey.
So AEW, I didn't see all of this news, so forgive me if I get a couple of details wrong. I'm sure James can fill in the blanks. But they have extended their deal with Time Warner Discovery, and they will now also be simulcasting Dynamite and I assume Collision and all of the shows on HBO Max. I refuse to just call it Max. It's HBO Max.
I was gonna say.
Starting next year, which is huge for me because I stream the show on my Xbox and I use the TBS app and it is mid at best. So Max works. It works very well and I can use that. But James, obviously this is a huge deal. I don't know if they mentioned if the pay-per-views were going to be on Max.
Eventually.
Because they are moving away from BR Live because I think they're just getting rid of that.
So BR Live is done. No more BR, no more Bleacher Report. And by the way, guys, this is important. Check your emails. An email went out a couple of days ago from Bleacher Report that if you have ever bought an AEW pay-per-view, it will, for the next 14 days, although that's over, it's no longer 14 days. I think we're at like 10 or 11 days now. You will be able to transfer over every AEW pay-per-view that you've ever bought to Triller.
Oh, fuck. I thought that did it automatically. I got to make
No, you got to do it.
Thank you for telling me.
There you go. So if you've ever bought an AEW pay-per-view on BR, go to your email and transfer it over to Triller. I've bought every single AEW pay-per-view on BR, so I will be sending it over to Triller.
I'm missing like 4.
What?
I think I'm missing like 4 because I've watched them at like your house or David's house or whomever.
But make sure to do that. And then later on in 2025, because the deal for Max starts in January of 2025, where you will be able to watch AEW on TBS and TNT simultaneously. You will be able to watch them on Max live, but the pay-per-views will be coming later in 2025. So give it a little bit of time. And it's very, very exciting. And beyond that, they've extended their deal with TBS and Turner. They will be on Turner Broadcasting for several years, Tony Schiavone says. I did not hear the number. I don't know how many years they extended it for, but for the foreseeable future, for the next several years, they will have a TV home with Turner. Wrestling is in a very new place right now. WWE is moving to Netflix with Monday Night Raw. AEW is moving to Max with Dynamite and Collision.
Yeah, not full time, but they are there.
So we're seeing streaming becoming the future homes of these wrestling shows. So very, very interesting time. It's going to be very fun. It's going to be very interesting seeing people debate ratings for things that we will not be able to know.
Yeah, Netflix does not give out their ratings for anything. It's all arbitrary. And Dynamite, I imagine their ratings might be slightly affected by people not watching on cable, but watching rather over on streaming. And granted, I watch Dynamite every week. My number doesn't count towards the fucking Nielsen boxes because it's a very antiquated way of reading these things. You've seen a Nielsen box? No, you haven't.
I have watched
no one has.
I have watched TV pretty much every day of my life since I've been born, and I have never seen a Nielsen box ever.
Yeah, no, if you have like FiOS or Optimum or whatever, that doesn't count. So technically, you watching doesn't count. It's the weirdest, stupidest thing. But I imagine that Turner will also be able to get a better idea of, or Warner Bros. Discovery, of the streaming numbers for Dynamite and the other shows, and be able to add that on top of the views they get through cable, which I think is going to be a big deal. I'm curious to see if it ends up growing the rating for Dynamite. And, we're now seeing the two flagship shows of the two major companies be on major streaming services, one full-time and one as a major option. So it's a brave new world out there for us trying to watch wrestling. And it's going to be very interesting to see how it all comes down to, like you said, James, not just with ratings too, but I think also with future deals and how all that money ends up working out.
Yep. Very exciting time.
And the sustainability of all of that and the companies themselves. Although I think the WWE is pretty sustainable. And with this new contract, I think AEW has officially proven themselves to be sustainable as well.
Absolutely.
But all very exciting. We will report more on that as it comes out. And as James said, go transfer your pay-per-views because holy shit, I didn't know that. And now I really need to do it. Yep. We're going to do it when we log off of here. All right. Well, so then on a more uplifting note, I would like to thank everybody so much for watching us here at the Mark It Down podcast. We would appreciate it if you like and subscribe, liking the video here on YouTube. Lets us know that we're doing a good job and you're enjoying what you're seeing here tonight. And if you subscribe, you can continue to get all of our shows here at the Mark It Down podcast. We got a Gym Pack Zone tomorrow, James?
Absolutely.
See you there. James will be back for the Gym Pack Zone for those of you who are fans of TNA. We haven't really done SmackDown too much, but we're covering it when we can and on bigger shows. We are back here. We've been covering Monday Night Raws again, which has been cool, but it's mostly been match job. And we will be back here Tuesday for Dynamite next week, but we are normally here on Wednesdays for AEW when it's on its normal schedule. We're also here for the major pay-per-views from WWE and AEW, along with, when James can do them, the TNA and Ring of Honor pay-per-views, since he loves those shows so much. So be sure to subscribe, and you can get all of that stuff here at the pod. If you would like to follow us on any of our social media platforms, and you are here on YouTube, you can check out the links in the description below for Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Although for those of you who are over on Twitter or listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, you can check us out on Twitter at @marketdown_pod. Check us out on Instagram at marketdownpod, or YouTube is youtube.com/marketdown3665. James, before we get out of here, I know we have some giveaways we have to take care of.
Yes.
Do we have an update on that? I know we promised a lot of people that they would be coming soon, and I know we want to handle them.
So first and foremost, our Joe Hendry giveaway, I'm really being generous with you, pal. I'm doing everything I can. I feel bad. I want you to win this prize that you won. I want you to take it home. So I will be doing everything I can to give you one last chance to claim it. If not, what do you think is a good day to finally call it and go to the runner-up?
Reroll on Sunday.
Sunday. If we cannot get in touch with you, we will go to the runner-up Sunday.
How long has it been?
God, it's been like a week. Hold on.
Oh, well, if it's been 2 weeks, I think that would be reasonable.
Yeah. So
I know we're kind of doing pod business on live here, but
no, we're being honest with you guys. We want to give it to you. It was I believe it was Dashington Dalton. I think that's who won it.
Is that here on YouTube, Dashington Dalton?
See, that's the thing. I had a few different entries from different places, and I'm pretty sure he won through YouTube. I haven't been able to reach out to him. We've said the name out loud, but I'm going to do my best. If you do not claim it by Sunday, I'm so sorry. We're just going to have to move on to the next guy. As for the giveaways that we were doing from when we were at Grand Slam, I'm going to announce those winners tomorrow on social media, because primarily our new our submissions were through social media, whether it was X or Instagram or Facebook. That's where we really saw it. So I will be making those announcements there. All right.
Yeah.
So stay tuned tomorrow on social media. I want to give this stuff away to you guys. It's been fun. We are at 1,088 followers. We are just jumping. And we are so grateful. We are having so much fun. I made a friend at House of Glory on Sunday.
I saw him. I saw you dap him up. From Grand Slam. I was so excited that we recognized. We had a lot of fun with everybody at Grand Slam, sitting in front of us and everyone we met outside.
Yeah.
My back does not hurt from that plank, though. Thank God, I'm okay.
That's all that matters. So, guys, again, thank you so much. I believe the next giveaway we're going to be doing is another Joe Hendry giveaway for Bound for Glory. That will be later this month. October 26th, I believe, is the date. So be ready. We have another completely different exclusive Joe Hendry shirt. I have never seen a shirt sell out at House of Glory the way I saw Joe Hendry shirt selling out. This is, I think, the first time I've ever experienced that. So this is a hot item. So we will be giving that and another Joe Hendry autograph away. So please, guys, get your stuff. It's cool. It's fun. And we're going to be probably giving away, for the first time in a while, some WWE stuff relatively soon. So keep your eye out.
Yeah. And I got to say, Joe Hendry, just as nice as you think he is truly a local hero. And I do believe it. So yeah, House of Glory was great. Shout out to them. They had a great show. As James said, check out our Instagram. We have a lot of good videos from that, especially that women's match. I cannot hype it up enough. And since you all have to go get Triller accounts now, you can get House of Glory pay-per-views. So go and see us at the front row. We were on TV a lot.
But we are on their socials, by the way. You and I really pop in the front row for a couple of shots.
Yeah, I'm not surprised, right? We're right fucking there. We watched Mike Santana almost kill himself.
Terrifying.
I'm still not sure if he did. I hope, if you really did get hurt, I hope you're doing okay, man.
Yeah. Fucking terrifying.
But, all right. So that takes care of all the housekeeping. So, James, unless you got anything I missed.
I think we could take it home.
All right.
Yes. Fuck WWE for the yes thing.
What I miss?
WWE filed a trademark for yes.
Oh.
And sent the cease and desist letter to Bryan.
That's so lame.
Yep. And you know what?
Didn't it lapse? I thought that it lapsed, and that's why you started using it.
We'll see how it goes. And
the guy's retiring. Fuck you.
I know. It's disgusting. And best wishes to Sammy Guevara, who unfortunately got pretty hurt during Ring of Honor taping tonight. He got knocked out and had to be carted out, and hoping for speedy recovery for Sammy Guevara.
Yeah, man. I know Sammy's had a concussion or two, so hopefully he is okay and he can recover and be able to take care of his daughter. So
Absolutely.
all right,
That's it. I'm done. Take it
okay.
on.
So that's twice now. We almost didn't end it on a depressing thing, and then we're ending it on another.
Yeah, it's a bummer.
We do kind of did. So subscribe and like shit on Insta, social media people, so you can win stuff. That's a better ending. So for James Casanti, producer boy Eric Casanti in the background, who left, but whatever. My name is Nick Cummings. Thank you so much for watching us here at the Market Down Podcast. Have a good night, everybody.